Chapter 1491. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was no longer what it used to be. A few months ago, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was not even a rising faction. Later, it managed luxury resources and barely squeezed into the rising faction industry. However, just a few days ago, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce took over all the resources of the Zheng family, a top veteran faction. The Zheng family's main functions overlapped with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce could now be considered a top veteran faction. Although the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was in the royal capital and had not changed its address, it was still in the original Xiaobai house. However, in the Abyss World's mirror image royal capital, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce could already divide a commercial territory of about 10,000 square meters. The royal capital's construction department had already urged Listen several times. Listen had Lin Yuan's back and could have whatever relationship he wanted. However, he still liked to do things according to the rules because he knew that Lin Yuan was also a person who liked to do things according to the rules. At dinner time, Listen hurried back to the return from Faraway Manor. Listen's return to Endless Summer made the return from Faraway Manor lively. Lin Yuan specially called Master Hong Xin, Zhang Xiaobai, Lu Pinru, Tan Ran and Exen Ying to the manor for a meal. After dinner, Lin Yuan came to Listen's side and said softly, "Young master, I've done what I should do on this trip to Indigo Azure City. Young master, I've done what I should do on this trip to Indigo Azure City. Everything that needs to be done has been done." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. He was not prepared to ask how Listen had dealt with the Zheng family. Even though Lin Yuan did not want to ask, Listen had already taken the lead to report to Lin Yuan. Since the Zheng family's main function is luxury resources, they have raised a total of nearly 4,000 spirit craftsmen over the years. Among these spirit craftsmen, there are 7 Class 4 spirit craftsmen and more than 200 Class 3 spirit craftsmen. Among the remaining 3,700 spirit craftsmen, Class 2 spirit craftsmen account for the majority. In total, the Zheng family's spirit craftsman resources are more than 6 times that of the Heavenly Craft Pavilion. After the Zheng family fell, Zheng Kaiyan immediately controlled these spirit craftsmen and did not let them leave the Zheng family. When I went over, I took over all these spirit craftsmen. As we won these spirit craftsmen through the Blood Oath Extreme Duel, most of these spirit craftsmen subconsciously have a deep hostility towards Sky City. Thus, I feel that these spirit craftsmen can't be used at all. They can only be used to process luxury items. With the labor of these spirit craftsmen, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's transaction scale can quickly rise to another level. With those 7 Class 4 spirit craftsmen and the rare spiritual materials provided by Young Master, the Listening Heron Auction House will definitely be able to build on its original foundation and build its reputation. When Lin Yuan heard that, he didn't comment. Zheng Kaiyan had already informed Lin Yuan about the thousands of spirit craftsmen in the Zheng family. Since Lin Yuan was lacking spirit craftsmen on his side, he did not even have the intention to attack the Zheng family's thousands of spirit craftsmen. It was because these spirit craftsmen could not be loyal to Sky City. Now that Listen had taken over these thousands of spirit craftsmen and arranged suitable jobs for them, it could be considered making the best use of them. After explaining the Zheng family's situation, Listen changed the topic and spoke softly to Lin Yuan. "Young Master, Zheng Kaiyan is very talented. After I took over the Zheng family's luxury resources, I left the shallow sea resources of Indigo Azure City to Zheng Kaiyan. I'm going to let Zheng Kaiyan develop the shallow sea resources of Indigo Azure City. Indigo Azure City's shallow sea resources are a huge treasure trove. How it develops in the end will depend on Zheng Kaiyan's own abilities." Upon hearing Listen's words, Lin Yuan knew that Listen had let go of his hatred for the Zheng family. Lin Yuan did not reply to Listen. The Zheng family led by Zheng Kaiyan could be considered a property of Sky City. Everything Zheng Kaiyan did was to make money for Sky City. It would be good to let Zheng Kaiyan develop Indigo Azure City's coastal sea resources. If Zheng Kaiyan had the ability to develop Indigo Azure City's shallow coastal sea resources, Lin Yuan didn't mind pointing out a bright path for Zheng Kaiyan to follow Gao Feng. Nurture aquatic phase that were suitable to be raised in the nearshore shallow sea for Gao Feng. Although Lin Yuan did not go out or train in the abyss in the past few days, he had not gone out. However, he was still very interested in the situation in the abyss. Lin Yuan asked Listen, Listen, what do you think has changed the most in the Federation with the opening of the Abyss World? Upon hearing that, Listen was slightly startled. After careful consideration, Listen answered Lin Yuan's question. Young Master, ever since I heard about the opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift, I have been paying attention to the situation in the Abyss World. According to my own understanding, the price of metals, spiritual materials suitable for the construction of cities in the Abyss World is generally 4 times higher than before. The price of ice-type phase that can lower the temperature and change the environment has increased by more than 15 times. The price of heat-resistant plant species phase has also increased by at least 3 times. Apart from that, the biggest change in price is in luxury resources. Currently, the price of luxury resources has doubled, but I think this is just the beginning. I predict that the price of luxury resources will increase at an extremely high rate. In the end, it may rise to more than 4 times the original price. When talking about the increase in the value of luxury resources, Listen's tone was full of excitement. It could be said that the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was standing at the vanguard of the change of the times. It wouldn't be long before Listen had the confidence to bring the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to break through the threshold of a top faction. Upon hearing Listen's answer, Lin Yuan sighed in his heart. The price of metals, spiritual materials and ice-type phase had risen because the construction of the Abyss World cities required a lot of these things. This would cause adventurer teams to choose underground dimensional rifts when exploring dimensional rifts. This was because only by exploring underground dimensional rifts and obtaining metals and spiritual materials could they maximize their profits. Low-class creation masters would spend a lot of energy and time to nurture ice-type phase. The concentration of creation masters' resources on ice-type phase would lead to a shortage of creation masters' resources on other phase. As a result, the overall price of phase would increase. Spiritual materials were produced from phase, and the increase in the price of phase would inevitably lead to the increase in the price of spiritual materials. It was unknown how many people would have a hard time because of this change. The farming garden was Radiance's granary and stored unpredictable resources. In a change of the times, many speculators were bound to appear. By hoarding metals, spiritual materials and ice-type phase, they would inflate the price and profit. However, Lin Yuan believed that Tian Feng, who was overseeing the farming garden, would soon take action. As long as the farming garden opened its warehouse and poured supplies into the market, the prices of all spiritual materials, phase, and metals in Radiance's market would immediately return to the original level. Chapter 1492. However, the plantation would release these resources that ordinary people and spirit chi professionals consumed daily. It would not release luxury resources because of the rise in the price of luxury resources. This was because metals, spiritual materials, ice-type phase, and the like were the daily consumption of ordinary people and spirit chi professionals, which involved the livelihood of the Radiance sect. On the other hand, luxury resources had nothing to do with the Radiance sect's livelihood. The price of luxury resources was so high because the major factions had hyped it up for the sake of face. Therefore, after the prices of other resources stabilized, the price of luxury resources would soar. After all, when the major factions established territories in the mirror world, they would inevitably have to buy a few sets of luxury items. This would undoubtedly drive the prosperity of the luxury goods market. In addition, after those speculators found that there was no place to speculate in the ordinary spiritual material market, they would turn their attention to luxury resources. Lin Yuan was waiting to see how Listen would capture this koi given by the times. Listen would hold this koi given by the times and transform into a dragon. During these 2 days, Lin Yuan did not receive any news from Bu Pa. As the saying went, no news was the best news. It seemed that Bu Pa had the talent of a creation master. Bu Pa should have become a creation master and gotten rid of the predicament. In order to better understand the Radiance sect's current situation, Lin Yuan worked hard. At night, he specially logged onto Star Web and checked the forums and posts. In these Star Web forums and post bars, Lin Yuan found many posts reflecting the problem of the skyrocketing price of spiritual ingredients. Back to the past, is there a mistake? Yesterday I only bought the ice crystal grass for 600 Federation dollars. Why did the price of the ice crystal grass rise to 8,000 Federation dollars when I went to buy it today? With 8,000 Federation dollars, why would I still buy normal ice crystal grass? I can even buy bronze ice crystal grass with a bad exclusive skill. Upon seeing the post posted by Back to the Past, Lin Yuan knew that this netizen called Back to the Past did not understand the specific situation. It was reasonable for the ice crystal grass's price to soar, and it would only be higher in the future. However, this price increase of more than 10 times still scared Lin Yuan. Those spirit chi professionals who had affinity with ice-type fays were probably feeling a sense of despair. Even if these fey professionals had an affinity with ice-type fays and were rather wealthy, they wouldn't be able to do so. Even if the price of ice-type fays increased by more than 10 times, they could still afford to buy ice-type fays. However, the price of the ice-type spirit materials needed to nurture ice-type spirit items would also increase by a dozen times. It could be said that nurturing an ice-type fae was equivalent to nurturing over 10 other fays. As for when the price increase would stop, it wasn't something that could be easily changed by a single person or force. Even if Lin Yuan scattered all of Sky City's wealth, he would still be helpless against this market problem that had occurred due to the change of the times. Pouring the wealth of Sky City into the market was like pouring a cup of water into a lake. Lin Yuan continued to check other posts. Shadow of the Cloud Summit. What the hell? My mansion's foundation is already laid and I have hired the construction team. The materials were originally quoted at 120,000 radiance dollars. How did it become 960,000 radiance dollars in just one day? How am I going to build the mansion now? Chun Hua, I'm crying. Why are all the creation masters so busy now? Even if I spend money, I still can't get a queue. Why have the creation masters that I worked with before all gone to the Whale Ocean to trade? Is there anyone who understands the situation? Tell me, why did the Whale Ocean trade look for so many creation masters? Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. 32 major cities had built mirror cities in the Abyss world. It was reasonable for creation masters to have a shortage of resources. Even if His Majesty Tianfeng released a large amount of resources, it would still only allow the prices of phase, metals and spiritual materials to return to the original price. It would not be able to effectively allocate creation masters' resources. Even if the Radiance Federation did not open 6 abyss dimensional rifts, the creation masters' resources would not be enough. Now, the Radiance Federation was building mirror cities in the Abyss world. It was the same as cutting the already scarce creation masters' resources by half. It seemed that the Radiance Federation's creation masters' resources would definitely increase in the future. The status of creation masters would also increase with the shortage of creation masters' resources. By then, the status of Class 5 spirit craftsmen and Class 5 weavers would probably be among the pinnacle lifestyles. It was only comparable to the status of creation masters below Class 4. Shadow of the Cloud Summit's post inexplicably linked the shortage of creation masters' resources to the pinnacle faction, the Whale Ocean trade. With each refresh, the number of likes and comments on Shadow of the Cloud Summit's post increased exponentially. In less than 5 minutes, Lin Yuan found that Shadow of the Cloud Summit's post had become a hot topic on the Star Web Forum's homepage. The Whale Ocean trade had gathered so many creation masters to take advantage of the chaos. The sudden opening of the Abyss world was equivalent to shining a beam of light on the people who were taking advantage of the chaos. It could be said that the Whale Ocean trade had no way out. Even if the Whale Ocean trade had many concerns and wanted to stop this behavior, there was no chance at all. Afterward, the Whale Ocean trade was bound to be hammered by the High Lords. Even if the Whale Ocean trade did not do anything this time, the Spirit Guard's investigation would surface all kinds of previous behavior. Therefore, the Whale Ocean trade's only way out was to fight for an opportunity in desperation. What Lin Yuan could not understand was why the Whale Ocean trade dared to do this. Could they really retreat unscathed after doing this? Lin Yuan continued to look at the posts on Star Web and found that there were more and more posts about prices. It could be said that Radiance was currently at a stage of extreme repression. Just as Lin Yuan understood the current situation and was about to log out of Star Web, Geng Yuan issued a statement to all Star Web netizens through Star Web officials with thunderous momentum. V farming. Due to the opening of the Abyss world, the big cities need to build mirror cities in the Abyss world. In addition, the Abyss world is unbearably hot, causing the prices of many phase and spiritual ingredients in the market to increase greatly. The farming yuan has decided to release 600 million tons of bronze, 100 million tons of silver, 2,000 trillion tons of gold, 10 billion tons of platinum, and 500 million tons of diamond metals every month. There will be 110 trillion ice-type phase of all grades. The other spiritual ingredients and phase that are affected will be released by the farming yuan, allowing the market prices to return to their original state. From the moment this news is released, the farming yuan will regulate the prices of all phase and spiritual ingredients in the market. Within 72 hours, Radiance's phase and spiritual ingredients will return to their original prices. If there is a big city or region that has not regulated the prices of phase and spiritual ingredients, you are welcome to report it to the farming yuan through Star Web officials. Chapter 1493. Lin Yuan was shocked when he saw this message. Then a warm current rose from Lin Yuan's heart and cleansed his whole body. What was the magnanimity? What was the ability of magnanimity? Lin Yuan had long thought that Geng Yuan would intervene in the market price. However, he did not expect that Geng Yuan would act so quickly. Within 2 days of the incident, when public opinion had just surged on Star Web, Geng Yuan had already made the final decision, quelled this public opinion and completely resolved the matter. At the same time, the resources released by Geng Yuan shocked Lin Yuan. 600 million tons of bronze metals, 100 million tons of silver metals, 200 billion tons of gold metals, 10 billion tons of platinum metals, and 500 million tons of diamond metals. What kind of concept was this? What kind of wealth was this? Even 100,000 Class 4 underground dimensional rifts would not be able to produce so many metals and spiritual ingredients. Moreover, the farming garden didn't release this many spiritual materials in total. Instead, she released so many every month. In addition to the metals, there were 110 trillion ice-type phase of all grades. It could almost change the Abyss world's climate within a certain range. Geng Yuan's action this time made Lin Yuan realize that his previous scale was a little small. Lin Yuan had thought of hoarding supplies before, but his hoarding of supplies only stopped at a few hundred soldier rations. He also planted a large number of production and economic plant phase in the swamp world. This method of hoarding supplies could ensure Sky City's self-sufficiency for hundreds of years. However, in the face of such a big change as the change of the times, Sky City's original method of hoarding supplies could not play any key role at all. Lin Yuan felt that it was time for him to expand his scope and broaden his horizons. This would allow Sky City to gather more and faster resources. Lu Jie's Dimensional Light Moth was now at Diamond X/Legend. The Dimensional Light Moth could easily open Class 3 to Class 4 dimensional rifts by gnawing on space. For factions without strength, Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts were nightmares. However, for powerful factions, Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts were treasure troves. The Dimensional Light Moth was the key to open the treasure trove. Lin Yuan did not have many people on hand. If he wanted to rely on the white-clothed followers, it was impossible to mine many dimensional rifts at the same time. However, Lin Yuan grasped the power of faith and had many apostles under him. These apostles would have large amounts of believers and believers in the future. At that time, each of Lin Yuan's apostles would be able to lead their own believers and believers. Multiple resource development teams were formed to collect resources from various Class 3 and Class 4 dimensional rifts. A few hundred stalks of soldier grain radish were obviously not enough. He planned to use the life-form still fire produced by the Twin Red Pagoda's main flower to roast these military rations every day. The stems of the ice grain radish that had been split off quickly turned into lignification. Then he split the military grain radish that had been split off. He also established a Fey breeding base in the swamp world. Only in this way could he truly use the resources of the swamp world to accumulate resources. Time flew and 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. 2 days later, everything related to the people's livelihood in the Huiyao Empire had returned to normal. However, the prices of luxury goods had already shown signs of soaring. The listening Heron Chamber of Commerce received a large number of orders for custom-made luxury items. However, these orders were all rejected by Listen. Listen was not afraid of offending these forces that had placed orders with the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce because of his actions. The increase in the prices of luxury goods had little to do with spirit craftsmen. It was mainly because the raw materials used to make luxury goods were more expensive. Therefore, the forces that were rejected by Listen would only come back to the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in the future. After all, the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had the resources to make luxury goods. This was Listen's greatest trump card in this era. On a green mountain on the outskirts of Dragon Ascending City, There was a pagoda-like palace. This pagoda-like palace had a total of 33 floors. The corners of each floor were carved in the shape of wheat ears. This made the tower look exquisite, but at the same time, it gave people a very down-to-earth feeling. In addition to the wheat ear carvings at the corners of the pagoda, the body of the pagoda was engraved with all kinds of fruits that could be eaten. If a person saw this pagoda when they were hungry, they would probably immediately speed up the secretion of saliva. When they got closer, they saw a large piece of farmland around the pagoda. The farmland was full of the unique heavenly fragrance rice. Legend had it that eating 1 grain of heavenly fragrance rice could make one feel full for 10 days. In addition, it could increase the speed of spiritual power recovery within 10 days. However, all of Hui Yao's majesties knew that the owner of the heavenly fragrance rice was a miser. Therefore, even Hui Yao's majesties rarely had the opportunity to eat the heavenly fragrance rice. A slightly fat and stinky middle-aged man was waving a hoe and digging the furrows between the 2 bunches of heavenly fragrance rice. The wealthy-looking middle-aged man dug with all his might, making the furrows neat and tidy. It was as if he had used a ruler to measure it. At that moment, a young man walked over. Standing on the ground, the young man didn't dare to step on the furrows that the man had just dug. He could only stand at the edge of the fence and shout softly, "Lord Tianfeng. Currently, the resources have been completely distributed. After investigation, the supplies everywhere have been restored to their original levels." Upon hearing that, Tianfeng put the hoe aside. He touched the heavy ears of the heavenly fragrance rice with his hand before walking out of the field with satisfaction. As he walked, he said, "The amount of supplies distributed this time is quite a bit different from the shortage reported by the City Guard Division. Cicada cries people have always been cautious. There has never been a situation where there is a difference in supplies. Have you found out the reason?" Upon hearing that, the young man frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "The reason has been found out. We've already found out the reason. There are 2 reasons for this situation. The first reason is that Indigo Azure City and Raging Wave City's city guards have somehow saved a large amount of their budget. The 2 cities' city guards used this budget to purchase a lot of resources to build a mirror city. When calculating these resources, the 2 cities' city guards forgot to calculate the supplies that they had gathered themselves. It can be considered a mistake of the city guards. The other reason is that Whale Ocean Trade has gathered over 10,000 creation masters and said that they are going to conduct some experiment." Upon hearing that, Tianfeng frowned and shouted, "Nonsense! It has only been 2 days and the prices have skyrocketed. How much does it have to do with the shortage of over 10,000 creation masters? The reason for such a gap is that Indigo Azure City and Raging Wave City's city guards forgot to calculate the supplies that they have hoarded. During this period of time, keep an eye on the changes in the market prices. Once the market has completely stabilized, I will go and ask Whale Ocean Trade's Diwantian why they want so many creation master resources." Chapter 1494. The youth could not understand Tianfeng's nonsense for a moment. Was he talking about the 2 city guards of Indigo Azure City and Raging Wave City or the Whale Ocean Trade? Once the 2 city guard captains reported the situation, the matter would be over. However, if the Whale Ocean Trade was reprimanded by Tianfeng, the spirit guards would definitely investigate. However, the Whale Ocean Trading Company had always kept a low profile over the years. Even if the spirit guards investigated, there should not be any major problems. There were still around 10 days before the spiritual ingredients and phase prices completely stabilized. During this period of time, he had to keep a close watch. Otherwise, he would definitely be reprimanded by Tianfeng again. When the youth reported back to work, a trace of doubt emerged in Tianfeng's mind. The opening of the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift was a last-minute decision by all the eminences. Otherwise, according to normal circumstances, the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift's opening would be arranged after the Radiance 100 sequence test. The Whale Ocean Trade definitely did not hire a large number of creation masters because of the news of the Abyss Dimensional Rift's opening. What exactly did the Whale Ocean Trade want to do with so many creation masters? Furthermore, the Imperial Court had restricted all the top factions and did not allow them to use their resources to wantonly affect the market. It would be fine if the Whale Ocean Trade only hired high-class creation masters. If a large number of low-class creation masters were hired by the Whale Ocean Trade, It would affect the economic system maintained by these low-class creation masters. Countless small chambers of commerce and star web stores would be on the verge of collapse because of these low-class creation masters being hired by the whale ocean trade. Tianfeng had a trace of impulse to go to the whale ocean trade to investigate the situation, but he quickly suppressed this impulse. As the eminence, Tianfeng had more important things to do during these 10 days. This was to maintain the stability of the Radiance sect's economic system. He did not want those ordinary people and spirit chi professionals to be affected by the changes of the times. Soon, it was the day when he signed up for the whale ocean trade experiment as a Class 2 creation master. On this day, Lin Yuan woke up early. He wore an extremely simple gray spirit chi attire and looked out the window. It was a sunny day. However, the clouds in the sky were thick and dense, blocking the bright sunlight. However, under the radiance of the sun, these dense clouds would sooner or later evaporate into drifting clouds and be herded into the sky. As he looked at the thick clouds, Lin Yuan pondered. If his conjecture about the whale ocean trade was correct, then this matter was a huge matter. It was related to Hui Yao's Creation Master Foundation. After encountering Ji Feng and understanding his background and situation, it was hard for Lin Yuan not to speculate about the whale ocean trade's purpose of gathering creation masters. As a top-notch force formed from the three forces, the three forces should have a very close relationship with each other. Furthermore, the Sea-Sky lineage was the lineage that was in charge of the creation master resources. It was only right that the other two lineages would support it. But Wan Qi's bloodline had killed Hai Tian's bloodline. Even if there was a grudge, if the whale ocean trade wanted to develop, it was impossible for it to lack creation master resources. When Lin Yuan had gone to the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's main mansion, he had heard Miao He mention it. The number of island whales controlled by the whale ocean trade was constantly increasing. This meant that after the creation masters of the sea and sky lineage perished, the Myriad Flags lineage had a massive amount of creation master resources. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan felt that he seemed to have grasped a point that he had never grasped before. Creation master resources? But what kind of creation master resources would require the lives of creation masters to be filled? Logically speaking, Lin Yuan should have told this matter to his master, the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan had not told her about this. Firstly, it was because she had been in seclusion recently. If Lin Yuan told Mystic Moon about this matter was of great importance, and Mystic Moon would definitely tell the Moon Empress. At that time, it would undoubtedly disturb the Moon Empress seclusion. Once a pinnacle expert's seclusion was disturbed, it would be very difficult to enter seclusion again. On the other hand, this matter was Lin Yuan's conjecture based on the information he had obtained. If Lin Yuan was wrong, the Moon Empress would investigate with great fanfare. Instead, it would be a joke. Now that Lin Yuan was going to act on his own, he decided to give Mystic Moon a call before taking action. Lin Yuan was now the Moon Empress disciple, and any action he took was related to the Moon Empress reputation. If he told Mystic Moon in advance, Mystic Moon would be able to respond in time if something happened. Previously, Lin Yuan had used the power of faith to enhance Bai Yan, and Bai Yan's strength was already at the pinnacle of Immortal realm. Recently, with the explosion of public opinion on Star Web, Lin Yuan's power of faith was nearly twice as powerful as before. With the enhancement of the power of faith, Bai Yan's strength would only be stronger than before. Lin Yuan did not think that there would be an expert stronger than the pinnacle of Immortal realm Bai Yan in the whale ocean trade. However, nothing was absolute. As the saying went, a gentleman would not stand under a collapsing wall. If there was an eternal realm expert hidden in the whale ocean trade, Mystic Moon would be able to intervene. If he informed Mystic Moon in advance, she would be able to intervene. However, when Lin Yuan called Mystic Moon, she did not pick up the call even after the ringtone ended. This made Lin Yuan frown slightly. Previously, when Lin Yuan called Mystic Moon, there had never been such a situation. Every time the ringtone would ring 3 times and Mystic Moon would pick up the call. Lin Yuan did not wait for Mystic Moon to call him back. Instead, he gave her another call. When the second ringtone was about to end, Mystic Moon hurriedly picked up the phone. Her tone was apologetic. "Your Highness, I'm upgrading Star Web with the 2 eminences. I didn't bring my cell phone with me. I only knew that Your Highness had called me when my subordinates reported it to me." Mystic Moon knew Lin Yuan very well and knew that he had called her twice in a row. He must have encountered something urgent. Lin Yuan hurriedly asked when he heard that Mystic Moon was upgrading Star Web. Uncle Mystic, how long do you need to upgrade Star Web? Mystic Moon did not hide the truth. Your Highness, thanks to you my sacred source lifeform's star grade has broken through, and my strength has crossed the threshold. My sacred source lifeform and my main body's spiritual energy make up 1/3 of Star Web. My sacred source lifeform and my main body have both improved, and the Star Web's spiritual perception network needs to be upgraded. Since this year's Radiance 100 sequence selection will be held on Star Web, the two eminences and I should be able to upgrade Star Web 10 days before the Radiance 100 sequence selection. Chapter 1495. Lin Yuan frowned when he heard Mystic Moon's words. Improving Star Web was a huge matter that concerned the entire Radiant sect. This matter not only involved Xianyu, but also the two majesties. It was no small matter. However, Lin Yuan's situation was equally important. After much consideration, Lin Yuan told Mystic Moon about his conjecture. However, Lin Yuan's explanation was very superficial and did not go into as much detail as he did to Mystic Moon. Hearing this, Xianyu was shocked. He then held his breath and muttered to himself. Xianyu turned to look at the two majesties in the hall and said, Your Highness, the chief guard of the spirit guards, Night Leaning Moon, has been in the Radiant Moon Palace recently. I'll give Night Leaning Moon a call and ask her to cooperate with Little Highness and protect Little Highness in secret. This matter will be led by Little Highness. Night Leaning Moon will cooperate with Little Highness. Xianyu paused for a moment before continuing. Before the Moon Empress went into seclusion, she told young Lord to do whatever he wanted to do. The Moon Empress will always be guarding you from behind. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan hung up. He was waiting for the chief guard of the spirit guards, Night Leaning Moon, to contact him. The chief guard of the spirit guards, Night Leaning Moon, was Lu Jie's master and not considered an outsider. However, he did not want to involve Lu Jie in this matter. Lu Jie also wanted to fight for the Radiance envoy position. If the guess was wrong, the reputation of the people involved would be tarnished. During the Radiance 100 sequence selection, the damage to one's reputation wouldn't have any impact. However, in the selection of the Radiance envoys, any damage to one's reputation could result in the loss of many votes. Thus, he planned to take responsibility for this matter himself. In less than 5 minutes, his cell phone rang. He picked up his phone and saw that it was an unknown number. His phone rarely rang, and whenever it did, it would be someone he was familiar with. This strange call was most likely from Yi Qing. When Lin Yuan picked up the phone, he heard a hoarse and cold voice. Little Yuan, I'm Night Leaning Moon, a friend of your master. How do you need me to cooperate with you? Just let me know. I'll arrange it. Lin Yuan was slightly startled when he heard that. Lin Yuan wasn't startled because Night Leaning Moon had asked him to make the arrangements. After all, Xianyu had said that Night Leaning Moon was here to cooperate with him. Lin Yuan was stunned by Night Leaning Moon's introduction of himself. Logically speaking, Night Leaning Moon had no problem introducing herself as the chief guard of the spirit guards and Lu Jie's master. But Night Leaning Moon claimed to be his master's friend. This meant that his master, the Moon Empress, was extremely important in Night Leaning Moon's heart. However, he had heard from Mystic Moon that the Moon Empress rarely interacted with the spirit guards. Since Night Leaning Moon had said that she would fully cooperate with him, he would make arrangements according to his thoughts. Bureau Chief Yi, I will tell you my conjecture. After saying that, Lin Yuan told Night Leaning Moon his conjecture in detail, including what had happened to Ji Feng and the entire Ocean Sky lineage. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's description, Night Leaning Moon, who was on the other end of the phone, was silent for a long time before speaking. Even if the Whale Ocean Trade doesn't plan to do anything with over 10,000 Creation Masters' lives, just killing the Sea Sky Clan, the #1 Creation Master race, is already a huge crime. Little Yuan, I'll dispatch 5,000 spirit guards to receive you outside the Whale Ocean Trading House after you move out. In addition, I will give you a Night Jade. If you are attacked, the Night Jade will form a barrier around you. After Yi Yu is destroyed, I will automatically teleport to Yi Yu's location. Infiltrate the old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. You can explore boldly. There's no need to worry about your safety. Just as the Whale Ocean Trade was gathering Creation Masters from 32 major cities in the name of experimentation, the Creation Masters were being recruited on a large scale. Night Leaning Moon had already received the news. Night Leaning Moon did not think that a top faction that had been in the Radiance Federation for decades would have any problems. However, Night Leaning Moon was still prepared to send 2 guard envoys to investigate. However, due to the conflict with the sea race, Night Leaning Moon had no choice but to send a large number of guard envoys and spirit guards to the coastal cities. This was to prevent the sea race from launching a sudden attack. As a result, there were not many people available in the imperial city of the spirit guards. Night Leaning Moon stayed in the Radiant Moon Palace and corrected the documents that were sent in from various places. The left administrators Wu Ming and the right administrator Yuzha were so busy that they couldn't free themselves. Night Leaning Moon was obviously busier than Zhu Ming and Yuzha. In Night Leaning Moon's opinion, Lin Yuan's conjecture was just wishful thinking. However, Lin Yuan dared to investigate for Hui Yao's future and put himself in danger. Obviously, he already had the qualities to become a Radiance envoy. Night Leaning Moon had been so kind to Lin Yuan at first because of the Moon Empress and Lu Jie's relationship. That was why Night Leaning Moon loved the house and its crow. But now, Night Leaning Moon admired Lin Yuan from the bottom of her heart. Compared to his disciple who only knew how to protect the Oathkeeper, Lin Yuan's vision was clearly much bigger. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's face lit up. Lin Yuan was not afraid that his safety could not be guaranteed, but he was afraid that Bai Yan alone could not protect those 10,000 creation masters. Now that there were more than 5,000 spirit guards to provide support, once a conflict broke out they would be killed. The spirit guards would immediately head over to receive the 10,000 creation masters. It was to ensure the safety of these creation masters. Lin Yuan expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, Chief Guard Yi." Night Leaning Moon said with a smile. "Little Yuan, you can just call me Aunt Yi. You don't have to call me Chief Guard Yi in private, and you don't have to address me as Lord." After speaking, Night Leaning Moon hung up the phone. Immediately after, Lin Yuan felt a touch of darkness quietly appear under the blazing sun. This touch of darkness sneaked into his manor and finally escaped into his room, landing accurately in his palm. It turned into a square jade pendant without ornaments. This must be the night jade that Night Leaning Moon mentioned. Night Leaning Moon's technique of extracting the night from the sun and turning it into a jade. This allowed Lin Yuan to deeply understand the concept of the word, Lord. It could be said that the method that Night Leaning Moon used had already exceeded Lin Yuan's previous understanding. Seeing that it was almost time, Lin Yuan prepared to go out. At that moment, Lin Yuan received the 3rd call in the morning. He picked up the phone and it was still an unfamiliar number. However, this number was different from the unfamiliar number that Night Leaning Moon had called him previously. Lin Yuan subconsciously thought that this call was still from Night Leaning Moon. However, when he picked up the phone, Lin Yuan only heard a man's voice coming from the other end. "You're called Chu Yuan, right? I'm from the Whale Ocean Trade. There's still 1 more hour before the gathering time. I remind you not to be late. In addition, you don't need to bring any additional supplies. After arriving at the Whale Ocean Trade, the Whale Ocean Trade will provide you with everything. In addition, a few Pinnacle Class 4 creation masters of the Sea Sky lineage have the intention of accepting a few disciples. Therefore, Chu Yuan, you have to grasp this opportunity well and not waste it." Chapter 1496. Upon hearing the man's words, Lin Yuan was so angry that he almost laughed. The purpose of this call was that the Whale Ocean Trading hoped that everyone could come. Thus, they had specially sent an attendant to call to tempt the creation masters. The Sea Sky lineage's people were all dead and only Ji Feng was left. The Whale Ocean Trading's people were making a big deal out of the dead people to let these creation masters calm down for a few days. They were still determined to go to the Whale Ocean Trading. There was no need for Lin Yuan to expose this attendant and deal with it. "I'll head to the registration point immediately." After saying that, Lin Yuan pretended to be excited and said a few words to the attendant. The attendant hurriedly hung up the phone. He was obviously in a hurry to inform the others. Lin Yuan did not ride Blackie in the royal capital. After all, it was too conspicuous. Lin Yuan, who had changed his appearance with the faceless paper, called to order a silver divine travel black swallow. Riding on the divine travel black swallow, Lin Yuan went all the way to the Whale Ocean Trading's registration point. Lin Yuan arrived at the registration point 40 minutes earlier than the agreed time. However, when Lin Yuan arrived at the registration point, he realized that it was already filled with creation masters. It could be said that the Whale Ocean Trading's registration point was the place with the highest concentration of creation masters in the entire royal capital. Lin Yuan found that these creation masters were all so excited that their faces were flushed. Some were looking forward to joining the Whale Ocean Trading, while others were looking forward to being chosen by the Sea Sky lineage's pinnacle Class 4 creation masters. They might even face some younger and more outstanding creation masters. These creation masters would even have a faint hostility toward each other. They obviously treated each other as competitors. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little upset. At that moment, compared to discovering the Whale Ocean Trading secret, Lin Yuan hoped that everything was just his imagination. However, it was impossible to say that it was all Lin Yuan's imagination. The call from the Whale Ocean Trading's attendant in the morning was already enough to explain the problem to a large extent. Just as Lin Yuan was preparing to check the prices in the surrounding shops while he was waiting, Lin Yuan realized that most of the creation masters were looking at him wherever he looked. This made Lin Yuan a little stunned. Lin Yuan remembered that he had put on the faceless paper and had specially looked in the mirror before leaving. His spirit chi clothes were also very low-key and ordinary. What? Could it be that an ordinary person could attract attention? How could he look so ordinary? Why are you still staring at me? If you think I'm ugly, then most of the people here don't look much different from my ordinary face, right? Lin Yuan thought in his heart. However, he had always neglected something. The faceless paper could change one's appearance, but it could not change one's bone structure and temperament. The beauty of one's bones and temperament was in a mutually balanced relationship with one's appearance. A person with good looks is often less conspicuous than a person with average looks, and their bearing is less magnificent. Lin Yuan's appearance was now suppressed to the lowest point. Lin Yuan, who had a perfect bone appearance, was simply a large aura ejector. However, as a large aura jet, Lin Yuan did not know it at all. At that moment, an elder who had been flattered by several middle-aged creation masters walked toward Lin Yuan. He said straightforwardly, "Little brother, are you also here to participate in the Whale Ocean Trading Company's experiment?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded with a smile. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's nod, the elder looked at Lin Yuan's chest. He noticed that Lin Yuan did not have a creation master crest on his chest, so he asked, "Little brother, you look young. You shouldn't be more than 18 years old, right? Little brother, are you a Class 1 creation master?" Lin Yuan's face focused on the side profile. With such a face shape, even if he was in his 30s or 40s, he would look like a youth in his 20s. As long as his skin did not look old, he would look like a youth in his 20s. It could be said that his face was young, and it had always been very vexing for Lin Yuan. In his original appearance, Lin Yuan, who was just over 18 years old, looked like a 16 or 17-year-old youth. Now that Lin Yuan was wearing the faceless paper, it only changed his facial features and did not change his bone structure. Therefore he still looked young. Upon hearing the elder mention the Creation Master crest, Lin Yuan simply took out his Class 2 Creation Master crest and pinned it on the lapel on his left chest. The Creation Master crest could best show a Creation Master's identity. Given Lin Yuan's current age, if he did not wear the Creation Master crest on his chest, people would definitely ask questions. Of course, Lin Yuan did not take out the Class 2 Creation Master crest that the Moon Empress had given him. If there was a moon totem beside the Class 2 Creation Master crest on his chest right now, Jiang Yi would be able to see the moon totem. No matter how many schemes the Whale Ocean Trade had, no matter how desperate they would still cancel their original plans. Upon seeing Lin Yuan wear the Class 2 Creation Master crest on his chest, the elder let out a soft gasp. The other creation masters in the surroundings also looked at Lin Yuan in surprise. After all, a Class 2 creation master who looked 16 or 17 years old was truly too rare. Most likely, only those veteran powers and top powers would be able to nurture such a talented junior. After a short moment of surprise, the elder exclaimed, "Heroes come from the young. When I became a Class 2 creation master back then, I was already over 30 years old. If I could become a Class 2 creation master at your age, this old man's creation master standard should be able to improve further." Through the creation master crest on the elder's chest, Lin Yuan understood that the elder was a Class 3 creation master. If he improved further, he would become a Class 4 creation master. Generally, if a Class 2 creation master before the age of 20 didn't have any accidents, They would basically be able to become a Class 4 Creation Master at the age of 80. The average age of a Radiance King Class expert was already close to 200 years old. For King Class experts, 80 years old was only the prime of their life. Zhongzhe and Gulang were already Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Masters. Through some special means, the two of them could concoct Class 4 spirit liquids in a very short period of time. However, Zhongzhe and Gulang did not choose to take the Class 4 Creation Master exam. It wasn't that Zhongzhe and Gulang did not want to, but the Class 4 Creation Master exam was no longer as simple as the Class 1 to Class 3 Creation Master exams. The Class 4 Creation Master exam would last for a week. During the week, the Class 4 Creation Master who participated in the Class 4 Creation Master exam would draw random exam questions based on the results. They would conduct 7 tests. It also meant that they would have to concoct at least 7 bottles of Class 4 spirit liquids. It was easy for Zhongzhe and Gulang to use special means to concoct a bottle of Class 4 spirit liquids. However, if they used special means, they would often overdraft themselves. If they overdraft too much, their roots would be damaged. Chapter 1497. Lin Yuan had participated in the All-Star match and was selected as a lucky spectator to challenge the Barbarian Snake Guild Club. He had already shown his face in the entire Radiance Federation. However, no one was able to match Lin Yuan's identity with the Moon Empress disciple. After the Radiance 100 sequence ended, Lin Yuan was confident that Black's limelight would suppress everyone who participated in the Radiance 100 sequence and become the topic of discussion on the Star Web. Black naturally needed an opponent after becoming the topic of discussion. If there wasn't an opponent, this topic wouldn't be able to be dragged and extended. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to participate in the Class 3 and Class 4 Creation Master exams after the Radiance 100 sequence ended. He immediately went to participate in the Class 3 and Class 4 Creation Master exams and released the news that he had become a Class 4 Creation Master. This way his two identities could compete with each other on the Star Web. Lin Yuan would also be able to harvest more power of faith. In fact, Lin Yuan's Creation Master abilities weren't strong, and he didn't rely on traditional Creation Master skills. Instead, he relied on his unique body and the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If it was in the past, Lin Yuan wouldn't even dare to participate in the Class 4 Creation Master exams. Even Class 3 Creation Master exams wouldn't dare to casually participate in them. It would be fine if he drew a test to enhance a Bronze or Silver Fae. If he drew a test to evolve a Platinum Fae into a Diamond Fae, it would be very easy for other Class 3 Creation Masters. Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to do it. However, Lin Yuan now had Genius, and Genius could easily handle the content of the Class 4 Creation Master exam. During the process of the exam, due to the special nature of the Creation Master's spirit fluid concoction, no one would supervise it. Lin Yuan might have used a special method, but who could say that Genius and the 100 Questions Beast Legion weren't his own strength? Lin Yuan pinned the Class 2 Creation Master crest on his clothes. Lin Yuan could clearly feel that there were plenty of Creation Masters looking at him with vigilance and faint rejection. It was obvious that they were treating him as a competitor. The old man who had just spoken to Lin Yuan was carefully observing him. According to the spirit chi clothes that Lin Yuan was wearing, the elder was certain that Lin Yuan, a talented Class 2 Creation Master, didn't have any special foundation. Those with foundation wouldn't choose to wear spirit chi clothes that were weaved with bronze sandworm silk. Young brother, there is a high chance that you will be favored by the Sea Sky lineage's leaders during this trade. I might even be accepted as a disciple by the Sea Sky lineage's pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. The old man's words imperceptibly drew a lot of hatred for Lin Yuan. Of course, compared to jealousy, more Creation Masters envied Lin Yuan. There might be a huge difference in status between Creation Masters and other lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. In the small circle of Creation Masters, the difference in status was even greater. In just a few minutes, a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master had taken a fancy to him and was praising him profusely. It was enough to prove his strength. This ordinary-looking youth might really catch the eye of a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master from the Sea Sky lineage and be accepted as a disciple. At the thought of this, many of the 1- and 2-star Creation Masters took the initiative to greet Lin Yuan and build a relationship with him. Not far away, the attendants of the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 Banners branch were currently verifying the identities of the customers. Seeing that almost everyone had arrived, the attendant summoned a green elemental substance. The green elemental substance let out a shrill roar. In the end, the roar simulated a human voice. However, the roar simulated by the green elemental substance seemed a little sharp and hoarse. Everyone get ready. A floating light feather crane will come to pick you up in 3 minutes and bring you to the old mansion. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to investigate the green elemental substance. After probing, Lin Yuan found that the green elemental substance was a source-type item's source wind. However, this Platinum 3/Fantasy 2 source wind was really trash to nurture. Using modeled wind elements to nurture source wind was simply a waste of a good thing like source wind. However, using source wind to transmit a voice was much more effective than using a loudspeaker to shout. Upon hearing the attendant's words, the creation masters no longer chatted with each other. They all waited with burning eyes, hoping that this trip could give them a good future. Even if they could not be accepted as disciples by the Sea-Sky lineage's Class 4 creation masters, it was also good to be able to join the Whale Ocean trade. After all, it was much better to have a top faction as a backer than to fight alone. In any case, the top factions hired creation masters, and the creation masters only worked for the top factions. They would not be lacking in any remuneration. In fact, the remuneration was even better than taking on part-time jobs outside. In less than 3 minutes, Lin Yuan saw a row of huge crane shadows coming from the horizon. The floating light feather crane was a type of crane species Fey with an extremely powerful bloodline. Not only was it comfortable to ride on, but its speed was also the fastest among diamond flying type Feys. Only a top faction like the Whale Ocean Trade could easily send dozens of diamond floating light feather cranes to carry passengers. Before Grey had become a favored spirit, it had been a member of the feather crane species like the floating light feather crane. Just this alone was enough to see how precious the floating light feather crane was. The fact that the Whale Ocean Trade was willing to use the floating light feather crane to carry the creation masters to the old mansion made many creation masters smile. The floating light feather crane was enough to show the Whale Ocean Trade's deep sincerity. After boarding the floating light feather crane, Lin Yuan found that the attendants on the floating light feather crane's back had a very good attitude toward the creation masters. The people riding the floating light feather cranes looked at the creation masters with calm eyes. Lin Yuan could keenly sense a trace of mockery in those calm eyes. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan thought to himself, "It seems like only a small number of people in the Whale Ocean Trade know about the plan. If a person was used to treating creation masters as prey, then no matter how high the creation master status was, they wouldn't be able to survive. This person could no longer maintain a trace of respect for creation masters." That made sense. The Whale Ocean Trade was a major project that involved the lives and deaths of entire clans. It would be strange if many people knew about it. Perhaps only the higher-ups of the forces would know about it. Since the person controlling the drifting light feather crane was clearly aware of the situation, Lin Yuan simply walked forward, intending to probe for information through this person's mouth. As a result, when Lin Yuan walked closer before Lin Yuan could speak, this person spoke first. "Before I came, the family head gave me a mission. Our Whale Ocean Trading Company's experiment is of great importance. You are not allowed to bring your cell phones with you when participating in the experiment. Now give me your phones. After the experiment is over, I will return them to you." Upon hearing this person's words, Lin Yuan stopped in his tracks. The expressions of the other creation masters behind Lin Yuan suddenly darkened. Cell phones were personal items that involved personal privacy. Even an ordinary person would feel conflicted when their cell phone was taken away. Moreover, the ones who had their cell phones taken away were a group of creation masters who were usually aloof. Chapter 1498. However, Lin Yuan knew that if he did not hand over the cell phone, this person would not let it go. The Whale Ocean Trade would never allow the creation masters who participated in the experiment to leak the information. When the man had turned around, Lin Yuan had felt a sense of pressure. He had also felt this pressure from Duan He and Jifeng. This meant that the person sent by the Whale Ocean Trading Company to control the floating light feather crane was an emperor rank expert. If someone did not hand over their phone, there was a high possibility of bloodshed. After all, it was always a good idea to make an example out of the crowd. If there were emperor-class experts among the creation masters, both sides would clash. It was very likely that the floating light feather crane would not be able to return to the old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. This way he would not be able to smoothly participate in the Whale Ocean's trade plan. As for those creation masters who had successfully rushed to the Whale Ocean for trade, they would most likely encounter an accident within a short period of time. With that in mind, Lin Yuan did not intend to give this person a chance to make an example out of him. He took the lead and handed over his phone. Before boarding the floating light feather crane, he had already contacted Night Leaning Moon for the last time. Night Leaning Moon informed him that all 5,000 spirit guards were in position. They were just waiting for Lin Yuan to crush the Night Jade as a signal. Everyone had a herd mentality. As the leader, Lin Yuan was the first to hand over the cell phone. The other creation masters who weren't willing to resist had also handed over their cell phones. More than half of the creation masters who were unwilling to hand over their cell phones had already handed over their cell phones. Thus he no longer persisted. Soon, all the creation masters on the back of the floating light feather crane handed over their cell phones. The other floating light feather cranes did not have a leader like Lin Yuan. The process of collecting the phones was not going smoothly, and some of them had already gotten into conflict. However, they were still in midair and had yet to reach the old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. Creation masters could summon phase to escape. The person riding the floating light feather crane played the role of the bad cop, while the attendant played the role of the good cop. The Whale Ocean Trade Union also played the role of the bad cop. Finally, all the creation masters handed over their cell phones. At this moment, many of the creation masters were frowning. He vaguely sensed that something was not quite right. However, the extremely fast floating light feather crane had already carried the creation masters back to the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old residence. When he arrived at the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old mansion, he sized up the surroundings. The old residence of the Whale Ocean Trading Company had an elegant environment, and it was landscaped with gardens. Looking at it made people feel relaxed and at ease. From the interior design and layout of the old residence, one could see the foundation of Whale Ocean Trading Company as one of the three peak powers. Within the study of the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old residence, Di Wantian and Di Wanqing were standing beside a black-robed figure. Di Wantian, who had always been imposing, spoke gently to the black-robed figure. "Third sister, your current condition is not suitable for sunlight, but we don't have much time left. I didn't expect the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift to open so quickly. Our Whale Ocean trade gathered so many creation masters in the name of an experiment. It was a risky move in itself. According to the Star Web, many people have already attributed this matter to our Whale Ocean trade. Now that the market prices are changing and creation masters are in a shortage of resources, many people have already attributed this matter to our Whale Ocean trade. Even if they can't leave now, they will definitely come to visit our Whale Ocean trade in a week. Whether we can succeed or not depends on you, third sister." A soft and weak voice came from the figure under the black robe. "Big brother, I can persist. The four-legged beast region is ultimately an apex faction supported by Hearthstone. Hearthstone's own creation master resources aren't strong, but they have spent a lot to strengthen the four-legged beast region's creation master resources. It's all thanks to Hearthstone's plan to let the four-legged beast region monopolize the beast-type Fey market. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to absorb so many bodies with rich knowledge. I have already absorbed all the Class 4 creation masters in the four-legged beast region, but I haven't absorbed the creation masters below Class 3. It just so happens that I will bring them, the creation masters that arrived a few days ago, and the creation masters that just arrived today, into the hidden room. I am confident that I can reach Class 5 after consuming half of the creation master bodies." Di Wantian immediately got Di Wanqing to make the arrangements. Since this morning, Di Wanqing's expression had been a little flustered. Di Wanqing might be an immortal now, but this matter was too important. Not only was it related to the Whale Ocean Trade's honor, but it also involved the lives of tens of thousands of creation masters. Di Wanqing couldn't help but ask after hearing that his third sister only needed to consume half of the creation master bodies to reach Class 5. "Third sister, if you are only going to consume half of the creation master bodies, what are you going to do with the remaining half?" The black-robed woman's soft and weak voice echoed again. However, this soft and weak voice's words were abnormally ruthless. "Second brother, after becoming a Class 5 creation master, don't stop me from absorbing the bodies with rich knowledge. That half of the creation master bodies will be the dessert to stabilize my rank as a Class 5 creation master. I am able to become a Class 5 creation master because of my mutated soul and my sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng. My sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, is now at the pinnacle of Class 7. This time, these tens of thousands of creation masters might be able to upgrade my sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, to Class 8. Di Wantian and Di Wanqing were shocked when they heard this. According to Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's impression, shouldn't their third sister's sacred source life form be at Class 6? Shouldn't it be in the growth phase? How did it suddenly become the growth phase and at the pinnacle of Class 7? Di Wanqing was the family head of the whale ocean trade and a high-class immortal expert, but his sacred source life form was only at the elementary Class 7. If his third sister's sacred source life form was at the pinnacle Class 7, then what kind of strength would she have? His third sister had only said that her sacred source life form was at Class 7 today. Could it be that third sister would hide something from him and Wanqing? But Di Wantian obviously didn't have the time to ask about this. Compared to all this, it was more important for his third sister to become a Class 5 creation master. Only when his third sister became a Class 5 creation master would she be able to protect the entire whale ocean trade from the Lord's attack. She would bring glory to the whale ocean trade. While Di Wantian and Di Wanqing were busy with the black-robed woman, they didn't notice the exceptionally profound look in the black-robed woman's eyes. That profound look was indifferent, distant, and had a hint of mockery. It was as if she was an existence that was above humans and looked down on human lives. Thinking about the feast in a moment, the black-robed woman's lips curled into a dangerous smile. Chapter 1499. Many of the creation masters thought that after arriving at the Whale Ocean Trading Company's old residence, they would be treated well. Tonight, the Whale Ocean Trading Company would host a banquet to welcome them. During the banquet, several Class 4 creation masters from the Sea-Sky lineage would be attending. After all, among the tens of thousands of creation masters, there were close to 10 Class 4 creation masters. Among the 10 Class 4 creation masters, 2 of them were at the advanced stage and 1 was at the pinnacle stage. These creation masters were all big shots in the Radiant sect. Any pinnacle Class 4 creation master would be fought over and fawned over by the top factions. If this pinnacle Class 4 creation master joined a new top faction like Li Yun Aviankin, he would immediately be promoted as an elder. The pinnacle Class 4 creation master who came to the Whale Ocean Trading Company was called Crane Ji. Among the pinnacle Class 4 creation masters, she was a rare female creation master. Crane Ji had come to the Whale Ocean Trading Company because she was an old friend of the Sea-Sky lineage's creation masters. However, Crane Ji had not seen or heard any news of her old friends for over a decade. Rather than saying that Crane Ji was here to participate in the Whale Ocean Trading Company's experiment, it would be better to say that Crane Ji was here to visit her friends. At that moment, the creation masters who came to the Whale Ocean Trading Company's creation masters' original plans were all in vain. The actual situation was completely different from what these creation masters thought. The Whale Ocean Trading Company seemed to be in a hurry, and one of the myriad flags elder immediately appeared and spoke to everyone. Everyone here is the latest batch of creation masters to arrive at the Whale Ocean Trade Union. The creation masters who arrived earlier have already started working. The four-legged beast region's high-class creation masters have also been hired by our Whale Ocean Trading Company. Everyone, please go and meet up with the other creation masters immediately. Our Whale Ocean Trading Company will then assign all of you jobs. As soon as the myriad flags elder spoke, many of the creation masters' faces turned completely gloomy. The most gloomy one was the pinnacle Class 4 creation master, Crane Ji. Ji took a step forward and asked the elder in an arrogant tone. Dijanhong, you should know me, right? Why are you in such a hurry? You don't even give us time to settle down and rest? Elder Dijanhong of the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 Banners lineage looked at the person who spoke. He immediately felt a sense of foreboding. Crane Concubine's temper was not good and she was shrewd with age. It was not easy to fool her. However, since things had already come to this, Dijanhong couldn't be bothered to brush Crane Concubine off. Isn't it because our Whale Ocean Trade has encountered some problems? The elders of the Ocean Sky lineage are all working overtime to solve these problems. It just so happens that Senior Crane Bell is here and there are so many creation masters here. I wanted to call all of you over to take a look and see who can find a solution. From the moment she boarded the floating light feather crane and had her phone taken away, Crane Concubine had sensed that something was wrong with this trip. The old fogies of the Sea Sky bloodline were all extremely knowledgeable. Back then, the Sea Sky lineage's Grand Elder was only one step away from becoming a Class 5 creation master. It was a problem that even the Sea Sky lineage's first elder could not solve, so there was no way he could. If the Class 1 and Class 2 creation masters went over, they would only be able to watch the show. It wasn't even enough to add to the chaos. If a group of creation masters squeezed together noisily, how could they concoct the spirit fluid with peace of mind? As long as one of them sneezed, everyone's spirit fluid would have to be redone. Furthermore, the Sea Sky lineage's Grand Elder was rather hospitable. Under normal circumstances, when so many creation masters arrived, there would definitely be plenty of attendants lining the streets to welcome them. It wouldn't be like this where they didn't even have a place to stay. This made Crane Concubine feel as though they were a group of blackback mountain boars. They were being chased out of the slaughterhouse by the Fey breeding base's administrator. Ever since their phones had been taken away, many of the creation masters had been suppressing their anger. Now that Crane Concubine, who was a pinnacle Class 4 creation master, was the first to speak, a few Class 3 creation masters responded. I like to work in a quiet environment. If the Sea Sky lineage's elders and the four-legged beast region's high-class creation masters can't solve this problem, we won't be able to help even if we go. I have something that I need to make a call to contact my students. I haven't officially participated in the experiment, and I don't know what the experiment's purpose is. It shouldn't be a problem to take back my phone and make a call, right? As soon as these words were spoken, most of the Class 1 and Class 2 creation masters responded in unison. Apart from Crane Concubine, the few Class 4 creation masters were frowning tightly. They acted as though they were determined to make Whale Ocean Trade's Myriad Flag's elder, Dijon Hong, give them an explanation. At the Class 4 creation master stage, they didn't need to be afraid of offending any factions. If one faction didn't like them, there would be others who did. Creation masters were the #1 productive force. Therefore, when faced with the Whale Ocean Trade's attitude, these Class 4 creation masters had the intention to retreat. These Class 4 creation masters had the intention to retreat and did not plan to continue staying to help the Whale Ocean Trade. Lin Yuan looked at the current scene full of gunpowder and thought, this is bad. Although he was now at the Whale Ocean Trade's old residence, he didn't gather with the other creation masters who had rushed to the Whale Ocean Trade in advance. Firstly, Lin Yuan wasn't sure of the Whale Ocean Trade's purpose. Secondly, Lin Yuan was afraid that if he made a move, he wouldn't be able to protect those creation masters who weren't here. Therefore, Lin Yuan had to think of a way to ensure that these creation masters wouldn't clash with the Whale Ocean Trade and agree to gather first. This was the only way to make the Whale Ocean Trade reveal its hidden fangs. It would let Lin Yuan understand the Whale Ocean Trade's true plot. Lin Yuan, who was hidden in the crowd, squeezed through the crowd and stood out. Why don't we go and see the situation first? I'm friends with the young family head of the Sea Sky lineage, Ji Feng. I'm mainly here to visit a friend. Lin Yuan looked at Dijon Hong and asked, why are you here? Ji Feng should be at the experiment site, right? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Dijon Hong stared at Lin Yuan for a long time before replying, that's right. Young Master Ji Feng and the Sea Sky lineage's elders are at the experiment site. If you're visiting a friend, you can naturally reunite with them when you reach the experiment site. Upon hearing Dijon Hong's words, Lin Yuan carefully thought about the word reunite. The Myriad Flag's lineage had personally killed the Sea Sky lineage's elder. In the eyes of the Myriad Flag's lineage, Ji Feng, who had luckily escaped, should be a dead man. He said it was a reunion, but didn't he just want to send them to their deaths? When Crane Maiden heard Dijon Hong say that the Sea Sky lineage's elders were at the experiment site, she took a step back. She planned to wait until she saw the Sea Sky lineage's elders and not bother about Dijon Hong's rudeness. Chapter 1500. However, even though Crane Concubine had taken a step back, the other Class 3 and Class 4 creation masters didn't plan to back down. As a result, the atmosphere was still very tense. However, without the Class 4 creation master, Crane Concubine, taking the lead, the other two Class 4 creation masters did not say anything. The situation on both sides was obviously leaning towards Di Zhanhong's direction. Right at this moment, a low voice sounded. My apologies, everyone. Our Whale Ocean Trading Company has been extremely busy with the experiments. We didn't have the time to provide you with the best conditions. How about this? Follow me to the location of the experiment first. After gathering, my Whale Ocean Trading Company will host the grandest banquet for everyone. A tall man in a plain golden robe walked towards the crowd. This man had a pair of phoenix eyes and looked somewhat evil. However, Lin Yuan could faintly see a trace of heaviness and hesitation on Zhou Xian's calm face. When Di Zhanhong saw who it was, he hurriedly lowered his head and greeted Second Master. Di Wanqing waved his hand at Di Zhanhong, motioning for him to leave first. Di Wanqing had recently become a hot topic among the various major forces. Ever since news of Di Wanqing's breakthrough broke out in the Whale Ocean Trading Company, Whale Ocean Trading Company, which originally belonged to the top 3 factions, had become one of the top 3 factions. He was able to suppress the Brahma bug cage and the Rhine life form. Now that Di Wanqing, who was an immortal expert, had arrived, the Class 3 creation masters who were originally in confrontation with Di Zhanhong no longer had any face left. Only Lady Crane had the right to speak to Di Wanqing on equal footing. But now it was clear that Tsurumi was not going to stand up for him. As a result, those creation masters who were originally resisting also lost the courage to resist. Di Wanqing nodded at Crane Lady as a form of greeting. Then his gaze landed on Lin Yuan. With this glance, Di Wanqing's eyes immediately focused. Lin Yuan's aura was truly special, but after sensing he was only a B-rank spirit chi professional. They couldn't create any waves at all. Di Wanqing had been able to see through him at a glance because he had asked the princess to deactivate the concealment function on his grade. Otherwise, Di Wanqing wouldn't have been able to see through him with a single glance. Di Wanqing would have definitely tested him. Just when Lin Yuan thought that Di Wanqing would look away from him, Di Wanqing said, "Don't worry. You said you're good friends with Feng Er?" Feng Er has been living in seclusion with an elder of the Ocean Sky branch for nearly 10 years. 10 years ago you were still a child, right? Lin Yuan replied with a smile. The friendships formed in childhood are even deeper. I remember that the Myriad Flags lineage's young patriarch Zhai Hao had publicly expressed his friendship with Ji Feng on the Star Web. It's just that I can't compare to Zhai Hao, who was able to meet Ji Feng during the 10 years that Ji Feng was in seclusion. Upon hearing Lin Yuan mention Zhai Hao, Di Wanqing's expression clearly changed. Lin Yuan keenly captured this trace of change. Di Wanqing looked at Lin Yuan as though he was looking at a dead man and then said to everyone, "Don't worry. Follow me." Due to the importance of this experiment, our Whale Ocean Trading Company has specially built an underground palace. When you enter the underground palace, I hope that you will line up on your own and not make any noise. If Di Zhanhong had said this earlier, those Class 2 and Class 3 creation masters would definitely reveal an unhappy expression. But now that it was said by Di Wanqing, it was different. Lin Yuan originally wanted to continue blending into the crowd and stand in an inconspicuous position. He heard Crane Concubine say in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Just walk beside me. You can walk beside me. You should be a member of the Whale Ocean Trade, right?" The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth twitched. Then he quickly understood why Crane Concubine would think so. Lin Yuan remembered that he and Crane Concubine were riding on a floating light feather crane. At that time, the person driving the floating light feather crane and the attendant who received the report were obviously playing the good cop and the bad cop. When playing the good cop and the bad cop could not solve the problem, they needed a spy who went with the flow. The person who played the good cop and the bad cop would eventually achieve his goal. When Lin Yuan collected the Creation Master's cell phone and confronted Di Zhanhong with many Creation Masters, he played the role of a spy. However, all of this was just a coincidence for Lin Yuan to achieve his goal. Of course, Lin Yuan would not explain these to Crane Concubine. Lin Yuan did not nod or deny it. Instead, he cupped his hands at Crane Concubine and obediently followed her. Lin Yuan's behavior made Crane Concubine's stomach surge up, and she almost burst out. Crane Concubine only felt that the kid beside her was simply a piece of troublesome meat. Soon, under Di Wanqing's lead, everyone arrived at the entrance to the underground space that Di Wanqing had mentioned. This underground space was built on the mountain behind the Whale Ocean Trading Company. It was similar to the underground space that Lin Yuan had built in the Return from Faraway Mansion. When the Whale Ocean Trading Company built this underground space, it could order the spirit craftsmen to use a large number of suzerain metals and spatial spiritual materials. The underground space was built like an iron cage that was isolated from the world. This way, everything that happened in the underground space would not be known by the people on the surface. Di Wanqing single-handedly opened the underground space's door from the outside. Lin Yuan soon smelled a faint decaying aura. This smell of decay. The creation masters were already used to it. This was because after many spiritual materials decayed, they would have more medicinal properties than when they were fresh. Therefore, the creation masters were already used to this smell of decay. After passing through the door and entering the underground space, there was a long tunnel with strange fire lamps hanging on both sides. The underground space looked almost as bright as the outside. After Di Wanqing opened the door, he did not enter first. Instead, he guarded the door. He watched as the creation masters passed through the space tunnel and headed toward the underground space. After the last creation master passed through the door, Di Wanqing entered the tunnel and closed the door tightly. The closed door was like a hungry beast's tightly shut mouth. It made the creation masters at the back of the team feel a chill down their backs. Lin Yuan and Crane Concubine walked at the front of the team. Lin Yuan could not remember how many steps he had gone down. Since entering the tunnel, he had walked for a total of over 20 minutes. From the height, Lin Yuan was currently 800 meters below the ground. This depth was much deeper than the Return from Faraway Mansion's underground space. At that moment, a desperate curse came from below. What did the Whale Ocean Trading Company do to my grandfather, father, and uncle? Why haven't I seen them for 4 days? And why did you kill the Class 3 creation masters of the four-legged beast region? Does the Whale Ocean Trading Company want to destroy the four-legged beast region? Chapter 1501. Along with these desperate curses, there were many other noises. Such a loud noise should have reached everyone's ears when they entered the space tunnel. However, it was only at this part that everyone heard it. It was obvious that a large amount of sound-isolating metal spirit materials had been added to the walls in the first half. And now, this part of the wall was no longer filled with metal spirit materials that could isolate sound. This meant that the people of the Whale Ocean Trading Company were no longer afraid that the public would learn the truth. This mournful voice sounded rather familiar to Lin Yuan, as though he had heard it somewhere before. The mournful screams and other noisy curses caused the orderly creation master team to be in chaos. Just at this moment, a wave of air surged behind him. The shock wave was so powerful that it pushed everyone, including Crane Concubine, out of the tunnel. The people who were pushed out of the tunnel by a huge force were placed on an empty space of several thousand square meters. A large number of strange flame lamps illuminated the empty space, making it look somewhat eerie. At that moment, a large number of creation masters were squeezing in this empty space. A youth was kneeling on the ground nearby. His eyes were filled with anger and despair as he held 3 corpses in his arms. A man and a figure shrouded in black robes sat on 2 giant stone thrones. The man's face was filled with excitement and longing. It was as if a reality that he had been looking forward to was about to come true. The figure shrouded in the black robe was like a monster hidden in the darkness, not revealing any aura. At that moment, Crane Concubine shouted with a gloomy expression. Di Wanqing, what's going on? Crane Concubine had clearly recognized the man sitting on the giant stone throne. Di Wanqing pretended not to hear Heji's words. His gaze pierced through the crowd and asked the person at the back of the crowd. Second brother, did anyone escape? Di Wanqing, who was at the back of the crowd, flew over to Di Wantian's side. He sat on the empty stone throne on Di Wantian's left side and said, Big brother, everything went smoothly. After speaking, Di Wanqing looked at the tens of thousands of creation masters behind him. His tone was heavy as he asked the figure shrouded in a black robe. Third sister, if you can rely on half of the creation masters to become a Class 5 creation master, why don't you leave half of them behind? At this time and place, under such circumstances, Di Wanqing did not conceal his words at all. There was no need to hide anything. There were indeed pinnacle Class 4 creation masters like Crane Concubine here. However, as a pinnacle Class 4 creation master, Crane Concubine only had the talent as a creation master. She didn't have the talent as a combat class spirit chi professional like the Moon Empress, Chef Supreme or Bamboo Monarch. The S-rank spirit chi professional Crane Concubine was only at the pinnacle of Emperor class even after using her 3 main phase. Di Wantian and Di Wanqing had reached the Immortal realm long ago. The Whale Ocean Trading Company hadn't divulged this information in order to conceal its power. Therefore, Di Wanqing didn't care about anyone present. In order to build this underground space, the Whale Ocean Trading Company had even used a monarch-rank space-type metal, space-shattering purple gold. Even if an expert who had just reached the Immortal realm used his full power in this underground space, he would still be able to escape. The wall with the addition of the Void Break Fund could also completely block out the energy fluctuations within. The underground space wrapped in space-shattering purple gold was like a different world that was imprisoned. Adds Bigoogle equals Zbigoogle. Push. Only the experts at the peak of Immortal realm could break the purple gold cage. But where would the peak of Immortal realm experts come from? If there really was a peak of Immortal realm expert, the Whale Ocean Trading Company would have long been gone. It wouldn't be Di Wanqing and Di Wantian's turn to take the lives of these creation masters and pave the way for Third Sister to become a Class 5 creation master. Di Wanqing's undisguised words caused all the creation masters to look at Di Wanqing and the black-robed figure sitting on the limestone throne in shock. Di Wanqing might not have said it clearly, but all the creation masters had already guessed the situation. Was the Whale Ocean Trading trying to use the lives of all the creation masters here to create a Class 5 creation master? How would the Whale Ocean Trading dare to do so? What was the difference between the Whale Ocean Trading Company doing this and cutting off the roots of radiance? More than half of these 10,000 creation masters were below the age of 40. They had great potential for development. If these 10,000 creation masters were to work for 10 years, they would be able to provide at least 80 million spirit chi professionals with phase. They would also be able to provide follow-up enhancement services for 10 million phase. The resources of the creation masters were almost equivalent to the strength of the Federation. Before Di Wantian and the black-robed figure could respond to Di Wanqing, Crane Concubine immediately summoned all her phase. 3 figures shrouded in mist appeared beside Crane Concubine. They surrounded Crane Concubine in the middle in a triangular formation. These 3 figures didn't conceal the aura of creation seed phase at all. 3 kinds of world forces which were almost the same diffused in this underground space. However, when the world powers touched the wall, they couldn't penetrate it at all. Crane Concubine, who noticed the situation, knew that it wasn't good. The Whale Ocean Trading Company was indeed prepared. Crane Concubine summoned her phase. She wanted to make the first move and escape this underground space. Now it seemed that it was impossible. Crane Concubine shouted at the 3 people on the green stone throne. What is the Whale Ocean Trading Company trying to do? You have to think twice before you do anything. Using the blood of tens of thousands of creation masters to pave the path to become a Class 5 creation master. How can you do such a heinous thing? When you became a Class 1 creation master, didn't the mentor who assessed you tell you that the most important thing for a creation master is the inheritance? Upon hearing Di Wanqing's words, Di Wantian's face revealed obvious displeasure. Facing Crane Concubine's questioning, Di Wantian's face turned cold and flipped his hand. A palm-sized silver bird appeared in Di Wantian's hand. The moment this silver bird appeared, it immediately flickered 3 times like an arrow that left the bow. Immediately after, 3 bowl-sized black holes appeared in the bellies of the 3 young girls who were surrounded by smoke and sand. Through the black holes, Lin Yuan could see the robes of the spirit chi professionals behind them. Not a single drop of blood flowed out of the wounds, but the 3 phase in human form all collapsed on the ground with a weak aura. They didn't even have the ability to get up. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to investigate the silver bird that returned to Di Wantian's hand. After investigating, Lin Yuan realized that he could only see that this silver bird was called the Sky-Splitting Falcon. As for its abilities and exclusive skills, they were all question marks and couldn't be detected at all. It was obvious that the Sky-Splitting Falcon's strength had reached the Immortal realm. Chapter 1502. However, based on the attack just now, this Sky-Splitting Falcon was undoubtedly a spatial fae. The moment the Sky-Splitting Falcon pierced through the 3 crane species phase, it used the power of space to expel their internal organs. Such an attack was truly cruel. Seeing that her phase were severely injured, Crane Concubine looked at Di Wantian with a sinister expression. However, Crane Concubine could not do anything at all. Immortality was a hurdle that Crane Concubine could not climb over. It was not because Crane Concubine was a pinnacle Class 4 creation master and could not concoct a spirit fluid that could promote phase to immortality. It was also because Crane Concubine could not find a divine immortal expert to help her main fae transcend the tribulation. It was because Crane Concubine's talent was limited, and she could not break through the limit of S-rank spirit chi professionals to become an S+ spirit chi professional. This made Crane Concubine unable to contract an immortal fae even if she had gone through the rolling grade. In the face of life and death, only strength was the hard truth. Di Wantian's strength was a knife across Crane Concubine's neck. As long as Di Wantian wanted to, he could take Crane Concubine's life at any time. But at that moment, Crane Concubine was not only thinking about her own life and death. She was more worried that these creation masters would all die in the whale ocean trade. That would undoubtedly be a Radiance's death. Di Wantian sneered and looked at Crane Concubine. What do you mean by committing atrocities? Spirit chi professionals can kill and snatch treasures, but they are just following the most primitive law of the jungle. I used other creation masters' lives to pave the way for my third sister, and I am also following the most basic law of the jungle. You used your life to witness the birth of a Class 5 creation master, and it is originally your merit. When you die, it will be the most glorious moment of your life. Di Wantian's words were shameless, and Crane Concubine was so angry that her body was trembling. At that moment, Crane Concubine, who had never been old, suddenly felt that she was old. After understanding the true purpose of the Myriad Flags lineage, Crane Concubine knew that the Sea-Sky lineage was not going to hide from the world. Instead, they had all been murdered by the whale ocean trade. Crane Concubine, who was quick-witted, decided to take the risk. She would sacrifice herself and the creation seed phase that had accompanied her for over 200 years to exchange for the black-robed figure. Now that the black-robed figure was dead, the whale ocean trade's Myriad Flags lineage's desire to have a Class 5 creation master was also gone. Heiji didn't dare to guarantee that the enraged Di Wantian and Di Wanqing wouldn't make a move on these creation masters. At the very least, it gave Di Wantian and Di Wanqing a trace of reason to let these creation masters off. Just as Crane Concubine was about to circulate her spiritual power, she felt a pair of strong hands supporting her trembling body. Crane Ji turned her head and found that the person who was supporting her was the spy that she thought was holding her. Just as Crane Maiden was about to push this ordinary-looking but charismatic youth away, Lin Yuan spoke. "Senior, leave the rest to me." Before Lin Yuan could finish speaking, a sudden change occurred. Two screams and a sorrowful wail rang out from the direction of the throne. A small black insect stabbed its stinger into Di Wantian, Di Wanqing and the sky-splitting falcon. Di Wantian, Di Wanqing and the sky-splitting falcon immediately entered a state of paralysis. Immediately after, Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's bodies were lifted up by something that looked like vines. A large number of vines pierced into Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's bodies. Even the sky-splitting falcon that Di Wanqing had just summoned couldn't escape the fate of being entangled by the vines. Every feather of the sky-splitting falcon was comparable to the hardness of monarch-grade spiritual ingredients. However, they were still pierced by these brown vines. However, Lin Yuan felt that these things that were entangling Di Wanqing, Di Wantian, and the sky-splitting falcon were more like the roots of some kind of plant than vines. The pierced Di Wanqing and Di Wantian turned their heads with difficulty and looked at the figure shrouded in a black robe. They asked in disbelief, "Third sister, what are you doing?" Upon hearing Di Wantian and Di Wanqing's question, the black-robed figure sitting on the limestone throne stood up quietly. Then she took off the black robe on her body. A purple-haired, red-eyed, beautiful woman was standing in the same place. This woman had a clear and delicate temperament. It was as though a gust of wind could blow this thin and weak woman down. This place was obviously a purgatory filled with killing intent, but the woman's demeanor was like a lady strolling in the garden in the afternoon. The woman looked up at Di Wantian and Di Wanqing, and a soft and weak voice came out of her mouth. "Didn't Big Brother and Second Brother want me to become a Class 5 creation master the most? Actually, I have already become a Class 5 creation master. I just didn't tell you." Upon hearing the woman's words, Di Wanqing and Di Wantin seemed to have forgotten the pain of being pierced by the vines. They wanted to ask, but due to the momentary shock, they lost their voices. Upon seeing Di Wanqing and Di Wantian's expressions of disbelief, the woman shook her apricot-colored dress. she spoke in an exceptionally lazy tone. I originally didn't want to kill Big Brother and Second Brother. I just wanted to leave Radiance after becoming a Class 5 Creation Master and find the second page of Revival. The second page of Revival promised to let me become a special Creation Master of the Tower Cannon. When the 8th page is damaged, I will be the one to replace it. Who would have thought that my sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, would obtain a new function when it became a Class 7 Creation Master? The rotten body ginseng's roots can be used as blood vessels to connect me with other life forms that have the same source of energy. They are the reserves of my spiritual power, vitality, and lifespan. Without the two Big Brothers' spiritual power, how can I refine over 10,000 Creation Masters in one go? If I don't refine over 10,000 Creation Masters, I won't be able to smoothly progress on my path to become a Class 5 Creation Master. Those who don't become Class 5 Creation Masters will never understand that becoming a Class 5 Creation Master is actually a threshold. Only when a Class 5 Creation Master is a Class 5 Creation Master would one be able to truly urge everything to evolve and evolve naturally. The two of you are wholeheartedly thinking about the glory of the whale ocean trade. Now the two of you have become my batteries. Shouldn't the two of you be happier that my lifespan has doubled? As long as I, Diwanmi, am alive, the glory of the whale ocean trade will always exist. The two Big Brothers can die in peace. After hearing Diwanmi's words, Diwantian and Diwanqing were shocked and felt their hearts turn cold. They couldn't understand why their little sister, who had been pampered since she was young, would say such things. To do such a thing, Diwanqing had always felt that he couldn't bear to make a move on Creation Masters. Diwantian could bear to make a move on Creation Masters, but he had never thought of betraying Radiance. This was because Diwantian had always treated himself as a member of Radiance. However, Diwantian had placed the family's interests in an irreplaceable position. Even if it hurt Radiance, he wanted the family to prosper. But now his little sister said that she wanted to leave Radiance and become a special Creation Master of the Tower Cannon. Chapter 1503. What kind of power was the Pagoda Cannon? Who was the second page of Renaissance? Diwantian knew this very well. After a few interactions, Diwantian and Diwanqing realized that there was something wrong with the 8th page of the Pagoda Cannon. However, he couldn't tell what was wrong. Furthermore, how could the 8 pages of the Pagoda Cannon be so easily replaced? At this time, the roots of the rotting body meat ginseng had already pierced through the walls of Diwantian and Diwanqing's hearts. He was preparing to turn them into blood vessels and seize the blood cores of Diwantian and Diwanqing. Diwantian and Diwanqing turned into two living storage batteries. Diwantian's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Diwani. These were Diwantian's final words. Third sister, let these Creation Masters go. Once you become a Class 5 Creation Master and enter the Tower Cannon, the Resource Tower Cannon will arrange for you. At this moment, Diwantian came to a realization. When the small family was broken and there were no benefits to speak of, Diwanqing only wanted to protect this family that he had hurt and taken benefits from. He was already a sinner of Hui Yao. This was undeniable. From now on he would have to bear an eternal infamy. However, Diwantian still hoped that he could atone for Hui Yao's crimes before he died. He also wanted to help his blood-related relatives one last time, so that they wouldn't fall deeper and deeper into the abyss. Upon hearing Diwantian's words, a disdainful smile appeared on Diwanmi's doll-like face. The Creation Master's body is just the source of my strength increase. What's the difference between them and spiritual energy? I just want to improve my strength. I joined the Tower Cannon because the second page of Revival gave me a promise. From now on, Ta Dian will use the world's Creation Masters to support me and allow me to take another step forward. Let's go and see what kind of wonderful world is above Class 5 Creation Masters. Before Diwanmi could finish his words, Diwantian lost consciousness after Diwanqing. It had become Diwanmi's battery. When Diwanmi had attacked Diwantian and Diwanqing, Lin Yuan had secretly used Morbius True Data. He examined the roots of Diwanmi's rotting body ginseng. Sacred source name, rotten flesh ginseng, sacred source species, origin family / sacred source species, sacred source star grade, 7 star, sacred source type, wood function frowny face ginseng root wisdom. The extended ginseng root entangles into the target's body. After the target's spirit and soul are destroyed, The ginseng root can extract the target's knowledge and experience through the physical body and give the ginseng root the knowledge and experience. Withered ginseng abundant rain. When one's life force is about to be extinguished, one can nourish one's own life force by absorbing the life force of other creatures in the surroundings. Excessive life force can nourish one's mind and soul, allowing one's mind and soul to be at their peak. Flesh and blood battery. By fusing the ginseng roots into the blood vessels of the target that have the same energy as the ginseng root, the target will be able to recharge and store their own energy, lifespan, and vitality. At the same time, the modified flesh and blood battery will be able to withstand lethal attacks. After investigating, Lin Yuan understood the rotting flesh ginseng's secret. He also understood how Di Wanmi used a creation master's body to construct a divergent path to become a Class 5 creation master. The rotten body ginseng's ability allowed Di Wanmi to pass through a creation master's body, obtain the accumulated knowledge and experience from the creation master's spirit and soul. This knowledge and experience was the proof that Di Wanmi was confident in becoming a Class 5 creation master. A main road can be divided into countless forks, and if these forks are all gone, it will be very difficult. If he walked through all of them, he would be able to open up another path. As for the rotten body ginseng's second ability, withered ginseng abundant rain, it allowed Di Wanmi to be nearly immortal when there were living creatures around him. This was because Di Wanmi could rapidly absorb the life force of other living creatures in the surroundings to nourish himself. At the same time, it could allow Di Wanmi's spirit and soul to reach their peak state under the nourishment of life force. The withered ginseng abundant rain allowed Di Wanmi to become a perpetual motion machine that could fight forever. There was no need to worry that his consumption could not keep up with his replenishment. With Di Wantian and Di Wanqing as the flesh and blood battery, Di Wanmi had 3 bodies. His energy, lifespan, and vitality were all doubled. The rotting body ginseng was simply too powerful. It might not possess powerful offensive capabilities, but it could pave a smooth path for the contractor to become a creation master. It could also allow the contractor to not be limited by lifespan. The rotten body ginseng might not possess powerful killing power. However, Lin Yuan had never seen any other sacred source lifeforms possess such an ability and effect to benefit himself. Just now, when Di Wanmi was controlling Di Wantian and Di Wanqing, he had erupted with an aura that far surpassed Di Wantian's. The little black insect that had been summoned to paralyze Di Wantian, Di Wanqing, and the sky-splitting falcon had an aura that was comparable to Bai Yan's. Apparently he had reached the peak of Immortal realm. Fortunately, in order to hide it from Di Wantian and Di Wanqing, Di Wanmi did not obtain enough resources to improve himself. Otherwise, a Class 5 creation master would be able to raise his phase strength to the eternal realm. Di Wanmi looked at the creation masters below him and said, "Let's go. Now you will become my bait. Remember, this will be the most glorious moment of your lives. Because in the future, all of you will become part of a Class 6 creation master." Di Wanmi's words caused a commotion in the crowd. Right at this moment, a clear and pleasant voice resounded. "I always thought that you were Hui Yao's sinner. I didn't expect that I was narrow-minded. You are the sinner of the entire human race." The young man's clear and pleasant voice caused the current chaos to pause. All the creation masters present and Di Wanmi's eyes landed on the place where the voice came from. Crane Concubine stared at the young man beside her with her mouth agape. She did not know how good this young man's mental fortitude was. He could actually say such words at a time like this. Di Wanmi's red eyes landed on Lin Yuan as he snorted. "You have a sharp tongue. I'll start with you." Just as Di Wanmi was about to make a move, Lin Yuan did not choose to summon Bai Yan. He would then use Blue's faith possession and use the power of faith to enhance Bai Yan. This was because Lin Yuan would not be able to handle this matter. In such a narrow space, the aftermath of the collision between 2 immortal experts would kill everyone below the arch rank. Lin Yuan decisively crushed the night jade that Night Leaning Moon had given him. In an instant, the night spread, and the underground space that was dazzled by the strange fire lamp seemed to have fallen into a silent long night. The night was like a forge, suffused with a trace of coldness. The night was like the strongest barrier blocking in front of Lin Yuan, who was standing at the forefront of the crowd. All the creation masters were stopped behind this black-tempered curtain of night. It was a woman in a black dress with a black veil covering her face. Like an eternal night goddess, she stepped through the night and quietly stood at the forefront of the crowd. Chapter 1504. The Night Empress waved her hand and released an even denser night. The night intertwined to form a layer of crystal wall, reinforcing the space behind her. Then the Night Empress pointed her finger toward the sky. A touch of dark power came out of the Night Empress' fingertip. This dark power seemed to annihilate time and space. It made the entire world tremble under the Night Empress' finger. The wall, which was made of monarch-grade metal, sky-shattering purple gold, was like scrap metal. Under the Night Empress' finger, a big hole was opened. The noon light was warm and shone into the underground space that was nearly 800 meters deep. It made the panicking Creation Masters feel a trace of warmth. Originally, all the Creation Masters, including Crane Concubine, thought that they were going to die today and become Di Wanmi's nourishment. They didn't expect that a young man would actually summon one of the Night Empress of Huiyao through some kind of method. All the Creation Masters' faces revealed the joy of surviving a disaster and the excitement of seeing the Night Empress. Especially Crane Concubine. Crane Concubine, who was almost old, saw Night Leaning Moon's thin body supporting the night barrier. He felt a different kind of emotion surging in his heart. The death of Huiyao could finally be avoided. Crane Concubine turned to look at Lin Yuan. At that moment, Crane Concubine understood why Lin Yuan was the leader on the floating light feather crane's back. He encouraged everyone to hand over their cell phones. This was because Lin Yuan didn't want to cause conflict because of the cell phone and cause unnecessary casualties for the Creation Masters. Crane Concubine also understood why Lin Yuan was in a hurry to lead everyone to the underground space when talking to Di Zhanhong. This was because only when they were on the ground and understood the situation, only this young man could summon the Night Empress. Although it was the Night Empress who saved them, Crane Concubine knew that this young man was Huiyao's hero. Not everyone dared to personally take risks and investigate the situation in their prime. What kind of radiant spirit did this young man have? The Night Empress was Huiyao's pillar, and the Night Empress' presence made everyone feel at ease for no reason. It also made Di Wanmi, who wanted to attack Lin Yuan, hold his breath. Di Wanmi had always been cautious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have not told Di Wantian and Di Wanqing that he had become a Class 5 Creation Master. Di Wanmi, who had imagined countless possibilities, never thought that he would one day face the Night Empress. If he fought, he would definitely not be able to defeat the Night Empress. Not long ago, the Night Empress had used a 10-star sacred source life form to summon a phenomenon that Di Wanmi could not compare to. After becoming a Class 5 Creation Master, everything had to be slowly accumulated. If Di Wanmi was given 10 or 20 years to face the Night Empress, Di Wanmi would not be able to do so. Even if Di Wanmi still couldn't win, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state. In front of the Night Empress, Di Wanmi could not muster up any courage to make a move. However, Di Wanmi still had something to rely on, and it was the fact that he was a Class 5 Creation Master. Di Wanmi was confident that he could reveal his Class 5 Creation Master identity to the Night Empress. The Night Empress would never kill him. Lin Yuan came to Night Leaning Moon's side and explained to her what had happened in the underground palace. The more the Night Empress listened, the gloomier her face became. Listening to the end, the face of the Night Empress, who usually did not show her emotions, actually showed a clear and fierce expression. Even the Night Empress did not dare to estimate if Lin Yuan had not discovered the conspiracy of the Whale Ocean trade. How great of a loss would it have brought to Huiyao? The Whale Ocean trade was digging up Huiyao's roots. Night Leaning Moon, who was in a rage, raised her hand. Dense power of night formed a giant palm in front of Night Leaning Moon. She did not give Di Wanmi any time to speak. This palm formed from the power of night slapped Di Wanmi's face without the slightest bit of mercy. Di Wanmi's sacred source life form, the rotten body meat ginseng, was almost smashed into pulp. Even Di Wantian and Di Wanmi, who were supposed to be Di Wanmi's batteries, were turned into dust by this palm. Fortunately, Di Wanmi had activated the rotten body meat ginseng's flesh battery function and used his two brothers' bodies as a substitute for his death. Otherwise, Di Wanmi, who had just reached the peak of Immortal realm, would not have been able to withstand the Night Empress' furious palm. Once the rotten body meat ginseng was injured, it would automatically absorb the vitality of the surrounding living beings. However, the Night Empress' power of night had firmly sealed everything around Di Wanmi. The rotten body meat ginseng's roots could not pierce through the night barrier and could not use other living beings' vitality to recover. Di Wanmi, who stood up in a sorry state, spat out a mouthful of blood. Di Wanmi, who was looking down on everything and talking about his ambitions, looked at the Night Empress in panic. I am a Class 5 Creation Master. I am already a Class 5 Creation Master. I can use the bodies of sacred source life forms to create relics and world crystals to create world crystals. With me around, the Radiance Association will have 4 Class 5 Creation Masters. In terms of the number of Class 5 Creation Masters, we have surpassed the Freedom Federation. The Night Empress attack just now made Di Wanmi feel the shadow of death. Di Wanmi was a little puzzled. The young man who summoned the Night Empress was explaining the situation to her. I already told the Night Empress that I am a Class 5 Creation Master. Did the Night Empress not hear it clearly? If the Night Empress heard that I am a Class 5 Creation Master, why would she still make a move on me? Hearing Di Wanmi's words, Night Empress looked at Di Wanmi as if she was looking at a maggot. Night Empress said coldly, Radiance's Class 5 Creation Masters, be it the Moon Empress, Bamboo Monarch or Chef Supreme. The reason why they are revered isn't because they are Class 5 Creation Masters. It is because they use their abilities as Class 5 Creation Masters to contribute to the Radiance Association. This contribution can be protection or advancement. They might not be able to benefit every spirit chi professional in the Radiance Association, but they are using their own abilities to bring stability to the Radiance Association. Who do you think you are? Even if you really become a Class 6 Creation Master, you are not fit to be mentioned in the same breath as them. How I wish I could discover the Whale Ocean Trades conspiracy earlier. If that was the case, who knows how many more Creation Masters the Radiance Association would have. You killed Creation Masters for your own selfish desires. What right do you have to bear the lives of those Creation Masters? Hearing the Night Empress words, Di Wanmi's eyes became even more astonished. Di Wanmi's heart was filled with 10,000 questions about the Night Empress words. I am a Class 5 Creation Master. I am a Class 5 Creation Master. Isn't this enough to explain everything? Those Creation Masters that I have absorbed are all dead. What value do dead people have? Could the Radiance Association be willing to give up on me, a Class 5 Creation Master? This was a possibility that Di Wanmi had never imagined. However, even if the Night Empress wanted to kill him, Di Wanmi did not believe that the other eminences of the Radiance Association would do so. Di Wanmi picked up his broken sacred source life form, the rotten body ginseng, from the ground and said to Night Leaning Moon, I request to enter the Sin Cleansing Pond. I request to enter the Sin Cleansing Pond. My life and death will be decided by the 13 eminences of the Radiance Association. Chapter 1505. When the Night Empress heard this, the palm formed by the power of night once again slapped the other half of Di Wanmi's face. This time, Di Wanmi, who didn't have a flesh battery to defend himself, was beaten into a corner. After coughing for a long time, he still couldn't stand up. Night Leaning Moon looked at Di Wanmi and said with a tone of disdain, You hate others, but you treat yourself quite well. In order to withstand my attack, you even used your peak Immortal Fey Dark Thunder spiked armor as a shield. You know that you have to work hard to survive, but don't you know that those Creation Masters that you have absorbed also want to survive? If you want to join the Pagoda Canon and be 8th Page's substitute, how do you still have the face to say that you are from the Radiance Federation? The Sin Cleansing Pond accommodates the sinners of Hui Yao. What right do you have to enter the Sin Cleansing Pond? The killing intent in the Night Empress words was firm. The killing intent in his words grew thicker. Di Wanmi struggled and finally stood up again. However, Di Wanmi, who had yet to summon his Fae, was slapped twice by the Night Empress. He no longer had the courage to summon his Fae. Di Wanmi tried to struggle one last time. As long as Hui Yao can provide an endless supply of Creation Masters, I will definitely be able to become a Class 6. I'm willing to be Hui Yao's puppet and work for him for life. The Hui Yao is so powerful. It shouldn't be difficult for it to capture some Creation Masters from the other federations. I can issue an oath. The Night Empress raised her hand, pointed at the tens of thousands of Creation Masters behind her, and questioned Di Wanmi. Isn't the life of a Radiance Creation Master a life? Creation Masters build the civilization of spirit chi professionals and are the cornerstone of the spirit energy era. When the Federation is in a war, as long as it isn't a life and death situation, they won't easily touch the opposing Creation Masters. If you want to live, will the creation masters behind me agree? You have to give an explanation for the sea-sky lineage's creation master's life. You have to account for the four-legged beast region's creation master's life. You have to account for the lives of those creation masters who didn't join any faction. Therefore you must die. You deserve to die 10,000 times over. Night Leaning Moon gave Di Wanmi an ultimatum. These words contained Night Leaning Moon's most proper character, as the Radiant Highness. Otherwise, Night Leaning Moon could have easily agreed to Di Wanni's request and forced Di Wanni to swear loyalty to her. This way, Night Leaning Moon would have another Class 5 Creation Master as a servant. However, Night Leaning Moon's actions weren't just driven by profit. More importantly, it was his responsibility as Lord Huiyao. This responsibility had been on Night Leaning Moon's shoulders since the day she became a Radiance Envoy. The Night Empress was not in a hurry to execute Di Wanmi. Instead, she asked Lin Yuan, who was beside her. "Little Yuan, how do you think we should deal with Di Wanmi?" Night Leaning Moon wasn't asking him this to test him. The Moon Empress was in seclusion, and Lin Yuan was representing her by standing here. Lin Yuan was the first person to discover this conspiracy. Before coming here, he had already told Mystic Moon that he would cooperate with Lin Yuan. Therefore, it was up to Lin Yuan to make the decision. When Lin Yuan heard the Night Empress ask him how he should deal with Di Wanmi, he pondered for a moment before replying. "I discovered that there was a problem with the whale ocean trade because I happened to meet the sea-sky lineage's young family head, Ji Feng, when I was posting the trade on Star Web. Through Ji Feng, I found out about the undercurrent in the whale ocean trade. This matter wasn't reported to the Hidden Moon Pavilion, so I paid more attention to the whale ocean trade. I came to investigate this time because the number of creation masters gathered by the whale ocean trade is simply too many. I can't afford to gamble. Even if there is only a 10% chance that my guess is correct, I have to come and take a look. The first victim of the Myriad Flags lineage's conspiracy is the sea-sky lineage. I propose to call Ji Feng over and let him put an end to everything." Upon hearing that, Night Leaning Moon nodded. "Little Yuan, since you have a plan, go ahead and make the arrangements." Night Leaning Moon didn't immediately send these tens of thousands of creation masters away. Di Wanmi's death would be considered an explanation for these creation masters. Soon after receiving Lin Yuan's notice, Ji Feng arrived at the Whale Ocean Trade's old residence that he hadn't seen for a long time. Ever since Ji Feng had followed Lin Yuan, he had been thinking about how to repay Lin Yuan. He was only thinking about how to avenge his family. Ji Feng had originally thought of following Lin Yuan for 3 years to repay him for saving his life. Then he would head to the Whale Ocean to take revenge. However, Lin Yuan had helped him time and time again, making Ji Feng feel that no matter how long he stayed by Lin Yuan's side and how hard he worked, Lin Yuan would always help him. It would not be enough to repay Lin Yuan's kindness. Due to Lin Yuan's kindness, Ji Feng gave up the intention of seeking revenge on the Whale Ocean Trade's Myriad Flags within 30 years. He had not even said anything, and Lin Yuan had already helped him with the matter of revenge. Moreover, at the end of this matter, Lin Yuan had even allowed him to unleash the final sword strike to end the hatred. Just based on this, Ji Feng felt that following Lin Yuan was a blessing. Such a Lin Yuan was worth following for eternity. Ji Feng walked up to Di Wanmi, who was bound by the power of night, and summoned the Karma Sword Orchid. He used this Karma Sword Orchid, which his father had nurtured for him, to stab into Di Wanmi's heart and crush his vitality. The matter was over. The Night Empress did not give these tens of thousands of creation masters a chance to thank her for saving their lives. With a wave of her hand, she used the power of Night's barrier to move these tens of thousands of creation masters to the entrance of the Whale Ocean Trade's old mansion. Looking at the Whale Ocean Trade's imposing old mansion, Crane Concubine felt as though she was in a dream. Only an hour had passed, but she had experienced a life-and-death situation. She had also seen Her Majesty's boldness and the youth's bravery. Night Leaning Moon glanced at Ji Feng, who was standing beside Lin Yuan, and gently nodded at him. Lin Yuan knew that Night Leaning Moon had something to say to him, so he said to Ji Feng, "Ji Feng, return to the faraway mansion first. The Myriad Flags lineage and the Myriad Origins lineage have become estranged over the years, but the Myriad Flags lineage has never attacked the Myriad Origins lineage. There are also creation masters in the Myriad Origins lineage. Chief Guard Knight will thoroughly investigate all of this. We just have to wait for the news." After thoroughly investigating the myriad origins lineage, you as the young family head of the Sea Sky lineage, should come back to inherit the family business. Upon hearing that, Ji Feng hurriedly said, "Young master, I'll just stay by your side. Young master, I'll just stay by your side, Before Lin Yuan could speak, Night Leaning Moon looked at Ji Feng as though she was looking at a fool. If there is really something wrong with the myriad origins lineage, their outcome will not be any different from the myriad flags lineage. If you really want to help your young master in the future, come back and inherit everything in the whale ocean trade. Cleaning up the mess of the trade on the whale ocean and stabilizing the situation is what you should do." Chapter 1506. When Ji Feng heard this, he was startled and an ashamed expression appeared on his face. He then said firmly to Lin Yuan, "Don't worry. Young master, even if there are no issues with the myriad origins bloodline, I will still go all out to control the island whales in the whale ocean trade." After Ji Feng left, Night Leaning Moon sighed and said to Lin Yuan, "Don't worry. The other 12 eminences, including your master the Moon Empress, all of us hope that the Radiance Association can produce another Class 5 Creation Master. The appearance of a Class 5 Creation Master can increase Hui Yao's overall strength by at least 10%. But because of the selfishness of the Whale Ocean Trade's myriad flags lineage, they killed all the Creation Masters of the Sea Sky lineage. Otherwise, there might be a Class 5 Creation Master seedling among the Sea Sky lineage's Creation Masters. All these years, all of us thought that the Sea Sky lineage's Creation Master was in seclusion. We didn't expect that all of this was a conspiracy of the Whale Ocean Trade. Little Yuan, it's all thanks to you." Lin Yuan quietly listened to Night Leaning Moon speak. He knew that she was lamenting. For Night Leaning Moon to kill a Class 5 Creation Master like Di Wanmi, she must have made up her mind. Night Leaning Moon clearly treated him as a junior and did not treat him as an outsider. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such selfish words to Ji Feng with his status as Her Majesty. In the face of such a Night Leaning Moon, Lin Yuan felt that he no longer needed to hide some things. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan spoke to Night Leaning Moon in a serious tone. "Actually, I have a way to let Radiance have another Class 5 Creation Master." Night Leaning Moon was grieving over the large number of Creation Masters that had perished because of the selfish desires of the Whale Ocean Trade. As a result, Lin Yuan suddenly said that he could let Radiance have another Class 5 Creation Master. Night Leaning Moon couldn't help but be startled. Night Leaning Moon stared at Lin Yuan and spoke in a very solemn tone. "Little Yuan, you can't speak carelessly about such things. Class 5 Creation Masters were of great importance and concerned the Federation's future. Those federations that had Class 5 Creation Masters would be able to crush those that didn't have Class 5 Creation Masters in terms of overall strength. The transformation that a Class 5 Creation Master could cause was something that ordinary people couldn't imagine." As the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan was about to walk the path of a Radiance Envoy. Therefore, every word that Lin Yuan said was as heavy as 500 kilograms, and there could not be any falsehoods. No matter how talented Lin Yuan was, Night Leaning Moon didn't dare to believe that he had a way to create another Class 5 Creation Master for the Radiance Federation. If Class 5 Creation Masters were so easy to obtain, the Whale Ocean Trade would not have made a fuss about the Radiance Dao Sex Creation Masters. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was only natural that Night Leaning Moon did not believe him. Lin Yuan also knew that what he said was simply too unbelievable. For a moment he didn't know how to explain it to Night Leaning Moon. Lin Yuan waved his hand and summoned Red Thorn. He then asked Red Thorn to summon its original body. The Gold X/Fantasy V Red Thorn's main body expanded by nearly 3 times. The sinister mouth of Relinquish spat out the tongue of Relinquish that was covered in spikes. The blinking eye of Relinquish emitted a strange radiance. The furnace-like mouth of Relinquish rumbled as it digested large amounts of metals. The digestion of large amounts of metals caused the surface of the mouth of Relinquish to have a faint metallic luster. During this period of time, the mouth of Relinquish had devoured the metals. The mouth of Relinquish's toughness could already easily withstand the all-out attack of a same-grade fantasy breed Fae. Red Thorn just swung its green vine-like long hair and sat on Lin Yuan's neck. Its smiling face pressed against Lin Yuan's chin and gently rubbed against it. The Red Thorn that Lin Yuan summoned shocked the experienced and knowledgeable Night Leaning Moon twice in a row. It was a gold/fantasy breed six-winged demon with a bloodline at the pinnacle of six-winged. This was something that Night Leaning Moon had never seen in her entire life. The spirit guards supervised all phase in the world, and even Class 5 creation masters wouldn't dare to say that they were more knowledgeable than Night Leaning Moon. After Night Leaning Moon took a few glances at Red Thorn, she looked at its main body. After some investigation, Night Leaning Moon's eyes locked onto the only long dark purple tip of the tongue of Relinquish. Red Thorn had used 2 of its 3 tongues of Relinquish. It had used the tip of the tongue to control Lu Yenshan and Han Tianhe, whose bodies had been split into 2 by the Void Shadow Demon. Now Red Thorn's grade had risen to Gold X/Fantasy V. It could use the tongue of Relinquish's ability to control Di Wanmi, whose neck had been pierced by Ji Feng's sword. The tongue of Relinquish could awaken Di Wanmi's spirit and soul and retain his memories from when he was alive. Under Red Thorn's control, Di Wanmi could still carry out the work of a Class 5 creation master. However, Di Wanmi, who was controlled and awakened by the tongue of Relinquish, no longer had a chance to progress further. He could only forever maintain the standard of a Class 5 creation master. However, even if he was a Class 5 creation master, he was still a Class 5 creation master. Night Leaning Moon was a pinnacle Class 4 creation master and could easily see through Red Thorn's tongue of Relinquish's ability. Night Leaning Moon revealed an ecstatic expression. She didn't expect Lin Yuan to really rely on his own ability to let Radiance have a 4th Class 5 creation master. This was a huge matter. Di Wanmi had committed grave sins when he was alive, and it was considered a karmic cycle that Lin Yuan could use to benefit Radiance after his death. Little Yuan, use this 6-winged demon of yours to control Di Wanmi. After controlling Di Wanmi will become a part of your strength. However, don't waste your abilities as a creation master just because you have a Class 5 creation master under you. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. Of course, he wouldn't waste his abilities. If he wanted to increase his rank as a spirit chi professional, he still had to rely on his abilities. At the same time, Lin Yuan could tell from Night Leaning Moon's words that she was advising him to let him control Di Wanmi alone. Lin Yuan didn't reject it. First, Di Wanmi occupied Red Thorn's tongue of Relinquish. Everything about Di Wanmi was controlled by Red Thorn, and he was considered a puppet that was equivalent to a part of Lin Yuan's combat power system. In addition, Sky City also needed a Class 5 creation master in the dark to hold down the fort. That way, the bodies of the sacred source lifeforms he had collected could be forged into treasures. Di Wanmi couldn't even withstand one move from Night Leaning Moon, but Di Wanmi's strength was at the pinnacle of the immortal realm. After controlling Di Wanmi, Lin Yuan had an additional Class 5 creation master under him. It was the same as having an additional pinnacle of the immortal realm fighter. Lin Yuan commanded Red Thorn in front of Night Leaning Moon. Red Thorn, use the tongue of Relinquish to control Di Wanmi's body. Red Thorn extended its hand and pointed in Di Wanmi's direction. The spores landed on the ground and a path made of nibbling vines connected Di Wanmi and the mouth of Relinquish. Chapter 1507. The nibbling vines lifted Di Wanmi's body and sent him to the mouth of Relinquish that had a slender tongue. The tip of the tongue of Relinquish pierced into Di Wanmi's body. Numerous nail scars immediately appeared on Di Wanmi's body. Immediately after, the originally dead Di Wanmi opened his eyes and stood respectfully behind Lin Yuan. Night Leaning Moon looked at Lin Yuan and could not help but sigh with emotion. This generation's growth was simply too fast. I really wonder how the Moon Empress nurtured Lin Yuan. With Lin Yuan's current excellence, he was fully qualified to be a Radiance envoy. The Moon Empress was still in seclusion, and Night Leaning Moon was prepared to discuss today's matter with Mystic Moon. Then when the Moon Empress came out of seclusion, he would inform her in detail. He would let the Moon Empress decide if she should release the news that Lin Yuan had saved tens of thousands of creation masters. He definitely had to let them go. It was just that the Moon Empress had to decide when to release it. Upon seeing Lin Yuan walk back in front of her, Night Leaning Moon gently patted Lin Yuan's shoulder and spoke. "Little Yuan, you did well." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan revealed a bright smile. He then said to Night Leaning Moon, "Auntie, after the spirit guard is done searching the Whale Ocean's trade, I want to see if there's something I really need." He didn't tell Night Leaning Moon what he was looking for. He didn't say why he was looking for it. Although there were some things that he could tell Night Leaning Moon, there were some things that he had better keep to himself. That strange seed most likely came from the Pagoda Cannon. Night Leaning Moon already knew about the collusion between the Pagoda Cannon and the Whale Ocean Trading Company. How Huiyao would treat the Pagoda Cannon was not something he should think about. It didn't take long for the spirit guards to gather all the goods from the Whale Ocean trade. Lin Yuan looked at the resources that the spirit guards had gathered and activated Morbius True Data to examine them with all his might. Soon Lin Yuan found another strange seed among these resources. There was also a pot of half-open plants cultivated from the seeds of a strange plant. The plant had huge leaves and the flower bud in the middle gave off a rotten smell. It seemed to be a plant of the konjac family. However, under True Data this konjac plant was not a plant species Fey at all. Instead it was a plant-type dimensional creature called Gardener konjac. Furthermore, this half-bloomed plant was only a cluster of plants that the dimensional creature had split off. If it wasn't awakened by the dimensional creature, the branch would continue to sleep quietly. Lin Yuan asked Red Thorn, which was beside him. Red Thorn, can you eat this Gardener konjac in its cluster state like how you ate that seed? Before Lin Yuan asked, Red Thorn could no longer wait. Red Thorn looked at the ramets of the Gardener's konjac. It couldn't wait to swallow the Gardener konjac. He simply let Red Thorn devour the Gardener konjac's ramets and seeds. Soon, the ramets and seeds of the Gardener konjac were digested by Red Thorn's mouth of relinquish. This time Red Thorn's rank didn't skyrocket like the previous time. It was still at gold rank level 10. However, this didn't mean that the energy in the Gardener konjac ramets and seeds disappeared into thin air. The energy in the Gardener konjac ramets was more than 3 times more than the energy in the Gardener konjac seeds. This time Red Thorn devoured a Gardener konjac ramets and a seed. It was equivalent to absorbing 4 times the energy obtained last time. The reason its rank didn't increase this time was that this energy was imprisoned in Red Thorn's body. Only when this energy reached a certain level and reached a critical value would it be released to play a role. In other words, Red Thorn still needed to devour the Gardener konjac seeds or ramets. Although Red Thorn's rank didn't skyrocket, the tip of the tongue of relinquish still had an obvious change. Through communicating with Red Thorn, Lin Yuan learned that the regeneration speed of the tip of the tongue of relinquish had changed from 1 month to 3 days. It was 10 times shorter. In addition, the tip of the tongue of relinquish had forked and felt like a snake's tongue. It was as if the original tongue tip was about to split and become 2 tongues. From the looks of it, Red Thorn hadn't absorbed enough energy from the dimensional creature named Gardener konjac. Lin Yuan recalled that the Whale Ocean Trading Company had cooperated with the Beast Creation Garden and had given the Beast Creation Garden a seed. Miao Zhinshan had told Lin Yuan about this. Whether Red Thorn's tongue of relinquish could mutate successfully depended on the Beast Creation Garden's seed. After storing Red Thorn into the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan bade farewell to Night Leaning Moon. Lin Yuan's purpose of coming to the Whale Ocean Trading Company had been achieved. As long as Lin Yuan went to the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden to retrieve the seed, he could continuously receive information on the star web to exchange for items. He would let those Emperor-class experts phase undergo the world cleansing and extract the world grace. Fortunately, before the Radiance 100 sequence started, he would enhance Lin Yuan's own phase. He would strive to enhance all of Lin Yuan's phase to Diamond X. Only then could Lin Yuan ensure that on the battlefield of the Radiance 100 sequence, he had to guard against the Freedom Federation's conspiracy against the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan first returned to the mansion and asked Wen Yu to remove the face mask on his face. Then he summoned Blackie and rode it to the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's old mansion. When he reached the old mansion, Lin Yuan did not talk nonsense with Miao Zhinshan and explained his purpose of visit. Miao Zhinshan still did not know what had happened with the Whale Ocean Trading Company. However, Miao Zhinshan had already decided to rely on Lin Yuan for the entire Miao family. Thus, even if Lin Yuan asked for the Whale Ocean Trading Company's seed, Miao Zhinshan still gave it to Lin Yuan. Recently, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had been thinking of restoring its former glory. The way to restore its former glory was nothing more than to make a name for itself and obtain massive resources. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had gone downhill because of the Blood Oath Extreme Duel. Miao Zhinshan planned to use the Blood Oath Extreme Duel to make the Miao family rise again. Recently, the veteran factions that the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had applied for the Blood Oath Extreme Duel had all accepted it. This made Miao Zhinshan feel very strange. Why did these veteran factions dare to accept the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's Blood Oath Extreme Duel? It was said that rabbits would bite when cornered. It seemed like these veteran factions were all rabbits that bit people. Lin Yuan had previously emphasized not to let Miao Zhenshan use his identity as the Moon Empress disciple. However, Miao Zhenshan still reaped the benefits of Lin Yuan's identity as the Moon Empress disciple. During this period of time, no matter which top faction discussed cooperation, those top factions would maintain friendly relations with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden because the Moon Empress disciple had spoken up for the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. Chapter 1508. Furthermore, Miao Zhenshan had dared to do such a thing because he had the intention of secretly using Lin Yuan's identity as the Moon Empress disciple. Thus, Miao Zhenshan always felt terrified in front of Lin Yuan. When Yu had informed Lin Yuan of Miao Zhenshan's actions, he had already settled the whale ocean trade. It could be said that the Beast Creation Garden was no longer useful to him, since the Beast Creation Garden was courting death repeatedly by attacking 6 veteran forces at the same time. He wanted to use the lives of these 6 old forces to help the Miao family rise in the Beast Creation Garden. In his opinion, this behavior was essentially no different from the whale ocean trade. If there was a difference, it would be that the whale ocean trade was harming Creation Masters' lives. On the other hand, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had harmed the lives of veteran factions' spirit chi professionals. It was the behavior of vermin. Since the Miao family had crossed the line time and time again in the Beast Creation Garden, and they didn't know how to repent, the Miao family would not be able to change their ways. Why don't I use the Blood Oath Extreme Duel to get rid of the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden? Lin Yuan looked at Miao Zhenshan and asked, "How many peak stage Emperor-level experts do you have in the Beast Creation Garden?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Miao Zhenshan revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Miao Zhenshan did his best to report all the remaining peak martial emperors of the Miao family. When reporting the pinnacle emperor-class experts to Lin Yuan, Miao Zhenshan had hidden a part of his selfishness. There were some emperor-level experts who had just reached the peak and were not yet stable enough. Miao Zhenshan also reported everything to Lin Yuan. If they were lucky enough to use the law crystals that Lin Yuan had given them to reach the imperial grade, the Miao family would have profited greatly. Apart from the 8 emperor-level powerhouses in the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, there were not many of them. Miao Zhenshan reported that 10 peak martial emperors had arrived. Just like how he helped the Miao family's current peak emperor-level experts advance to the overlord level. After collecting these emperor-class experts' myth breed phase to become creation breeds, he would obtain the creation vein. Lin Yuan left the Miao family. Next, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, which had bad intentions, would contribute 18 law crystals to Lin Yuan because of his fierceness. Once the Blood Oath Extreme battle was over, the princess would be able to digest the world crystals to her heart's content for a good period of time. Similarly, he would also obtain a new sword skill every 7 days. It also increased the corresponding elemental resistance of the world of laws. After returning to the Return from Faraway Manor, Lin Yuan was preparing to return to his room. Red Thorn was strengthened through the Gardener Konjac seed he got from the Miao family. He wanted to see if Red Thorn could activate the energy in the ramets and seeds that it had devoured before after digesting the seed. Red Thorn's rank had only broken through to gold rank level 10 after the huge whale fall feast. Lin Yuan did not have any good ideas for Red Thorn's grade advancement. It could be said that Lin Yuan had always prepared the best bait for Red Thorn. Now Red Thorn had been consuming the flesh of platinum and diamond dimensional lifeforms, as well as bronze and silver grade spirit materials like ferromanganese and tough copper. However, even though Lin Yuan had an abundant supply of these bait, Red Thorn's grade did not rise. This gave Lin Yuan a headache. This time, if he could attract the energy of the gardener's konjac seeds and ramets, Red Thorn would definitely be able to break through from Gold X/Fantasy V to Platinum and become a Platinum/Fantasy breed demon. Lin Yuan's goal for Red Thorn was to let it break the restriction of the 6-winged demon's bloodline when it became a myth breed. It would become a legendary 8-winged demon that had never appeared before. Although Red Thorn consumed a large amount of Class 4 and Class 5 dimensional lifeforms, flesh and metals, its great advancement was not obvious. However, the absorption of these dimensional life forms' flesh made the digestive fluid in Red Thorn's mouth of Relinquish contain a variety of characteristics such as strong acid, corrosion, burning, and so on. In particular, Red Thorn's absorption of the water world dimensional life forms' flesh had allowed Red Thorn to breathe underwater. It also had the ability to paralyze the opponent through the secretion of juice. All of these were subtly enhancing Red Thorn's strength. The absorption of ferromanganese and tough copper made the nibbling vines stronger and more flexible at the same time. Now Red Thorn only needed to produce 10 nibbling vines to trap phase of the same level as Red Thorn. This crushing of same-grade life forms was partly because Lin Yuan was willing to invest in Red Thorn. It was also related to Red Thorn's pinnacle six-winged bloodline. Just as Lin Yuan was about to return to his room, he saw Lu Jia walking down the Golden Bell spiral staircase. Lu Jia had just finished a call with Night Leaning Moon. From Night Leaning Moon, Lu Jia found out that Lin Yuan had done a great thing in the morning. Lu Jia did not blame Lin Yuan for not telling him about this matter. Lu Jia blamed himself for not being able to help Lin Yuan with his current strength. Ever since the insect queen mutated and controlled the first insect-type carcinoma Fei, Lu Jia realized that his combat system had started to walk on a strange path. Due to the insect queen's special characteristics, Lu Jia could only contract one. Those insect-type carcinoma Feis were all contracted by the insect queen. This allowed Lu Jia to indirectly control those insect-type carcinoma Feis through the insect queen. Due to the bloodline restriction, the insect-type carcinoma Feis could not become fantasy breed Feis. Diamond X/Legend was already the limit for insect-type carcinoma Feis. Lu Jia could use these Diamond X/Legend insect-type carcinoma Feis to trigger a natural disaster to destroy the continent. It was very easy for Lu Jia and he could do it without any effort. However, by relying on these insect-type carcinoma Feis, Lu Jia would not be able to bear the responsibility of a retainer. The insect-type carcinoma Feis abilities were focused on destruction and not defense. Therefore, it was difficult for Lu Jia to be a shield in front of Lin Yuan and a sword in his hand. However, Lu Jia had no other choice and could only continue on this path. Originally, Lu Jia planned to contract a few insect-type carcinoma Feis after the Radiance 100 sequence ended. However, Lin Yuan's matter had stimulated Lu Jia. Lu Jia decided to contract those 3 insect-type carcinoma Feis before the Radiance 100 sequence ended. There might be risks, but with his sacred source lifeforms abilities, as long as he paid the price, he would be able to overcome this risk. Lu Jia said goodbye to Lin Yuan and thought to himself, since I can't be a shield to protect you or a sharp sword to cut through the thorns for you, then I can only use the method of destruction to become the strongest deterrent in your hands. At this moment, Lu Jia, who had made up his mind, did not expect that his choice would be written into the main world's history books. Lin Yuan returned to his room and entered the spirit lock spatial zone. He looked at Red Thorn, which was flying around him and looking at him with eager eyes. Lin Yuan tossed the gardener konjac seeds to Red Thorn and said, "Red Thorn, whether you can break through this time or not will depend on yourself." Red Thorn happily caught the gardener konjac seeds that Lin Yuan dug up and went to the mouth of Relinquish. Red Thorn happily caught the gardener konjac seeds that Lin Yuan dug up and went to the mouth of Relinquish. It tossed the gardener konjac seeds into the mouth of Relinquish. Chapter 1509. As the seeds of the gardener konjac entered the mouth of Relinquish, the 3 mouths of Relinquish, which were like furnaces, began to rumble violently. A majestic energy was awakened from the mouth of Relinquish. This energy affected the mouth of Relinquish, causing it to expand continuously. The 3 mouths of Relinquish expanded to a size of nearly 10 meters. At that moment, Red Thorn's voice echoed in his mind. Red Thorn was requesting Lin Yuan to choose its evolution direction. Lin Yuan knew that Red Thorn was going to evolve. In terms of evolution options, Lin Yuan didn't hesitate to continue to choose to enhance Red Thorn's digestive ability. It could be said that Red Thorn had been reaping the benefits of its digestive ability ever since it grew up. When Red Thorn was digesting, it could absorb a portion of the digested object's energy to strengthen itself. Hence, improving Red Thorn's digestive ability was equivalent to improving Red Thorn's overall quality. After Lin Yuan made his choice, the 3 mouths of Relinquish that had expanded to 10 meters continued to expand. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly summoned Red Thorn back to his room from the spirit lock spatial zone. He then summoned the ethereal jellyfish and let it teleport through the node. He teleported himself and Red Thorn to the previously marked wilderness. The Spirit Lock spatial zone was only so big and Lin Yuan had made use of it. The Spirit Lock spatial zone was filled with all sorts of phase. If he allowed Red Thorn's mouth of relinquish to continue expanding, it might affect the safety of the other phase in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Now in the wilderness, Red Thorn was expanding without restraint. Eventually, the three mouths of relinquish expanded to a diameter of about 15 meters. The increase in the size of the mouth of relinquish was also a manifestation of an enhanced digestive ability. Like two stomachs, a small stomach, a big stomach. If the digestive efficiency of a large stomach and a small stomach were the same, the larger stomach would always be able to digest more food than the smaller stomach. The evolving Red Thorn spawned a few ramets on the ground near him. It took root in the ground and absorbed a large amount of nutrients from the soil, causing a large area of land to become desertified. The rhizome shattered the sandy soil and Red Thorn's three mouths of relinquish actually burrowed into the soil bit by bit. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan could not help but be slightly stunned. After that, he knew that this was a habit that Red Thorn had developed at the bottom of the sea. When he had been at the bottom of the sea, he had realized that Red Thorn liked to drill into the sand. Now that Red Thorn was evolving, these were all unconscious actions. He could only wait for Red Thorn to complete its evolution before letting the mouth of relinquish emerge from the ground. After more than half an hour, Lin Yuan saw a huge flower bud with a diameter of nearly 10 meters burrowing out of the ground. Then the flower bud bloomed and turned into a huge red flower with a crown of nearly 50 meters. The petals of the flower were like gauze, dancing in the air with the breeze. This dark red color was like a flame dancing in the wind. Immediately after, the ground trembled and three mouths of relinquish emerged from the ground. It turned out that above the three mouths of relinquish, a flower neck had grown out from the central region, and this huge red flower had bloomed. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw the petals in the flower opening layer by layer. Red Thorn's figure appeared in the heart of the flowers. The barefooted Red Thorn sat on the center of the flower, as though it was a queen on a throne, inspecting everything. Red Thorn did not inform the acid corrosion queen bee about its evolution. This caused the acid corrosion queen bee to almost lose her life in the mouth of relinquish. However, the acid corrosion queen bee didn't mind at all. After all, what right did simps have to care? Now that the house was several times bigger than before, and the acid was more abundant, the acid corrosion queen bee couldn't be happier. Lin Yuan keenly noticed that the front of the mouth of relinquish's tongue of relinquish had completely forked. The tip of the tongue of relinquish that was originally consumed protruded out a purple tongue tip. Red Thorn had already pounced into Lin Yuan's embrace. Lin Yuan asked, "Red Thorn, your relinquish's tongue seems to have split. Can your relinquish's tongue control 3 more targets?" Red Thorn nodded its head and replied, "Lin Yuan, I can still control 3 more bad guys." To Red Thorn, Han Tianhe, Lu Yenshan and Di Wanmi were all its enemies. Therefore, in Red Thorn's mouth, these people were naturally the bad guys. At that moment, Lin Yuan had already used Morbius True Data to investigate Red Thorn's grade. Fey name, Red Thorn, 6-winged demon, 1,000 eyes sacrificial offering, spirit species, vine subspecies/fairy species, Fey grade, platinum 3 out of 10, Fey type, source/wood, Fey quality, fantasy V abilities, frowny face, mouth of relinquish, secretes vigorous digestive fluid. The digestive fluid is extremely corrosive and can rapidly digest the energy in food. The tongue of relinquish in the mouth can increase the digestion speed by several times and can secrete various acids that have consumed flesh and blood. At the same time, when the 3 mouths of relinquish's tongues of relinquish pierce into the target's body, they can choose to cut off the tongue tip and leave the tongue tip in the target's body. When the target is alive, the tongue tip can control the target's spirit and soul. When the target is dead, the tongue tip can control and activate the target's spirit and soul, allowing the target to live. Carnivorous vine. Hollow vines that contain digestive fluid and sharp teeth inside the vines can consume flesh and blood energy by scraping. Eye of relinquish. Eyes formed by consuming flesh and blood energy. Each eye contains a large amount of flesh and blood energy. When the number of eyes of relinquish on each mouth of relinquish is maintained below 60, the eyes of relinquish can only store energy. When there are more than 60 eyes of relinquish, Those that exceed 60 eyes of Relinquish will not be stored on the mouth of Relinquish and can turn into an energy ray at any time. Flower C transition. Through rapid consumption of stored energy, the attack power and mobility of the child Ramets in the Sea of Flowers will be multiplied. At the same time, the child Ramets' weapons will be specialized, allowing the original functionality of the child Ramets' weapons to increase. Demon Spirit Curse. When any child Ramets split from the mother Ramets touch the enemy target and break through the target's defense, it will curse the target. Each curse will have a random negative effect in the demon's body, and the curse caused by the attack can be stacked multiple times. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Spore Proliferation. The spore cavity spits out a large number of spores. The spores can absorb the energy provided by red thorn or flesh and blood energy to rapidly proliferate and grow child Ramets and Ramets that are controlled by the mother Ramets. Wither Glory. Red thorn can quickly absorb the energy in the ground and inject it into the Sea of Flowers. As long as there are child Ramets and child Ramets in the ground, the withered Sea of Flowers will reach the most prosperous state. After checking, Lin Yuan found that red thorn had transformed from Gold X to Platinum 3. Chapter 1510. Red Thorn had undergone a complete metamorphosis previously. The advanced skills and exclusive skills were the same as before and there were no obvious changes. However, unlike Gold Red Thorn, Platinum Red Thorn had obtained a new ability, Demon Spirit Kill Curse. The Demon Spirit Kill Curse seemed to be very different from Red Thorn's other abilities. Red Thorn's other abilities were derived from its main body. According to the Demon Spirit Kill Curse's description, it was an ability derived from Red Thorn's demon bloodline. The Demon Spirit Kill Curse allowed Red Thorn's child Ramets to touch the target and cause damage to the target. It would randomly select one of Red Thorn's negative effects and attach it to the target's body. Furthermore, this effect could be stacked many times. More importantly, these effects that were originally physical or elemental had all become curses. When facing physical and elemental attacks, some powerful life forms often had extremely strong resistance. However, the curse did not only target the physical body but also the mind, spirit, and soul. It was extremely difficult to crack. At the same time, the curse could also turn into misfortune under a large accumulation of effects. The misfortune in Zhong Zai's body was caused by the multiple stacking effects of the curse. Red Thorn's platinum ability, Demon Spirit Kill Curse, turned Red Thorn's Sea of Flowers into a sea of cursed flowers. Targets that entered the Sea of Flowers would be plagued by misfortune because of the curse. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Right now, Red Thorn would probably be able to stop the Pinnacle Class 3 alien insect dimensional rift by itself. Lin Yuan suddenly felt that if he wanted Red Thorn to improve its strength, he might as well not purchase dimensional lifeform's flesh. When Lu Jie returned, he would let the dimensional lamp moth open a dimensional rift. He would place Red Thorn under the dimensional rift and gorge itself. But soon Lin Yuan became distressed. The whale ocean trade was destroyed and he no longer had a way to obtain Gardener Konjac seeds or Ramets. When he thought that the Gardener Konjac was a dimensional life form, Lin Yuan's mind stirred. After returning to the mansion with Red Thorn, Lin Yuan stored it in the spiritual spatial zone. Red Thorn's current size was simply too large and was no longer suitable to stay in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan went to the swamp world through the Klein hub and called Bai Yen to ask about the Gardener Konjac. Gardener Konjac was a plant that loved water, and there were not many dimensional rifts that were suitable for it to grow. The temperature of the abyss world was extremely high, and non-fire type plants could not survive. They would soon be roasted dry. There was no light in the underground world all day long. Most of the plants that lived in the underground world had the ability to emit light. They relied on the light emitted by themselves and their companions to survive. The plants in the water world were all aquatic plants that could not live without water. If they left the water, they would soon rot and stink like the water world dimensional life forms. In comparison, the Gardener Konjac was only suitable to grow in the swamp dimensional rift and the alien insect dimensional rift. However, most of the plants in the alien insect dimensional rift were fungi that fed on the bodies of insects. These fungi can turn worms into worm stalks. Cordyceps were the special products of the alien insect dimensional rift and possessed extremely potent medicinal properties. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that the Gardener Konjac was not suitable to survive in the alien insect world. Therefore, among the 5 known dimensional rifts, The swamp world was the only suitable place for Gardener Konjac to survive. She thought that as a native of the swamp world, Bai Yan should have seen the Gardener Konjac before. In the end, Bai Yan was very sure that he had never heard of the Gardener Konjac. This made Lin Yuan feel a little strange. Could there be a sixth-dimensional rift that had not been discovered by humans? Since Bai Yan did not know about it, Genius did not have any information about the Gardener Konjac. Lin Yuan did not bother about the Gardener Konjac anymore. In any case, he might encounter the Gardener Konjac again one day. The Whale Ocean Trades matter had been completely settled. It was time for Lin Yuan to increase his strength. In the real world, there were many spirit chi professionals who could not smoothly evolve their myth breed phase because they could not guarantee that they could pass the world cleansing. These people were Lin Yuan's trading partners. Lin Yuan would help their myth breed phase to successfully evolve their phase quality, but he would also take away the world grace that would descend after the phase passed the world cleansing. Just as Lin Yuan was contacting these people to come to the royal capital, Night Leaning Moon, who had just sent Lu Jia to contract the insect-type carcinoma Fei, was leaning over the table. She was dipping a pen in the golden juice and writing something seriously. Night Leaning Moon understood why Lu Jia was anxious to increase his strength at this juncture. At this moment, Lu Jia was really similar to her in the past. Night Leaning Moon had already communicated with Mystic Moon about the Whale Ocean Trade situation. This was because Mystic Moon was upgrading the star web with the other two Her Eminences, and the Moon Empress was in seclusion. As a participant in the entire incident, Night Leaning Moon naturally wrote the report on the entire incident. When writing the report, Night Leaning Moon deliberated for a long time. In the end, she decided to conceal the news of Lin Yuan using the six-winged demon to activate Di Wanmi's corpse and turn it into a Creation Master puppet. A Class 5 Creation Master puppet that could be controlled was undoubtedly more tempting than a living Class 5 Creation Master. The Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation had signed a 2-year agreement. Although there was no official declaration of war, the two major federations had already entered an emergency state of war. In addition, the Pagoda Cannons people had infiltrated the Radiance Federation and colluded with one of the three major factions, the Whale Ocean Trade, for so many years before being discovered. Therefore, not revealing some information was the best way to protect oneself. The Moon Empress, Chef Supreme and Bamboo Monarch were 3 Class 5 Creation Masters, and they were all current experts that no one could control. However, a Class 5 Creation Master puppet could be indirectly controlled through Lin Yuan's control. The other fellows must have received the news and understood the Whale Ocean Trade's conspiracy. The Imperial Court Conference should be starting again. Recently, the Imperial Court Conference has been rather frequent. At the thought of this, Night Leaning Moon suddenly realized something. It seemed that the frequent Imperial Court conferences that had been held for the past half a year were all related to Lin Yuan. What kind of disciple did the Moon Empress accept? Lin Yuan made an appointment with those Emperor-class experts and asked those King-class experts to gather in the royal capital. He worked hard to enhance phase while collecting the Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia that had just matured in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. He then fed the Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia to Genius. Lin Yuan realized that after Genius ate the Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia, its spiritual energy had a significant increase. In less than 2 days, it had transformed from Fantasy I to Fantasy II. When Lin Yuan was nurturing the Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia, he had used its spores. This allowed Lin Yuan to harvest a large number of Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia in one go. Chapter 15:12. Lin Yuan reckoned that after Genius finished eating this wave of Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia, its quality would at least reach Fantasy IV. As long as it nurtured another wave of Spirit Wisdom Purple Zoysia, Genius should be able to enter the Fantasy V door. Chimey had been living in the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's nest. It had never stopped absorbing the energy from the heavenly flames to temper its bloodline. A month ago, Lin Yuan had already started to let Chimey absorb high-grade heavenly flames. Now, Chimey's quality had evolved from Fantasy III to Fantasy IV. After transforming into the Fantasy IV, Chimey's appearance had undergone some slight changes. Presumably, when Genius and Chimey advanced to Fantasy V, their bloodlines would complete a complete evolution. Sun Ningxiang hadn't been idle during this period. While helping Lin Yuan promote the Warm Sun Fund, Sun Ningxiang helped Lin Yuan select a large batch of spirit chi professionals and ordinary people who were willing to enter seclusion. Lin Yuan transferred a large number of people selected by Sun Ningxiang into the swamp world. He handed them over to Lu Tong for him to make arrangements. When those creation masters who had made appointments with Lin Yuan arrived at the royal capital, Lin Yuan called the Mother of Bloodbath. They met up in the outskirts of the royal capital with these emperor-class experts. Before coming, the Mother of Bloodbath and Lin Yuan had put on faceless paper. As a myth 3 heaven and earth fae, the Mother of Bloodbath's combat strength was comparable to a creation breed fae. If the Mother of Bloodbath used its favored spirit bloodline to activate the power of the sun and control the power of the sun to fight, the Mother of Bloodbath could completely break through the limits of its realm and fight with fays of the second or even the third lineage of creation. Therefore, even if the Mother of Bloodbath was only a suzerain/myth 3 fae, it was more than enough to help these emperor-class experts' fays survive the world cleansing. For the entire day, Lin Yuan and the Mother of Bloodbath stayed in the outskirts of the royal capital. The Mother of Bloodbath fought the world cleansing head-on, while Lin Yuan quietly opened the Pure Land of Bliss underground to absorb the world grace. The Pure Land of Bliss only absorbed 10% of the world cleansing. After absorbing 10%, it could no longer absorb anymore. Therefore, these myth breed fays that had a breakthrough in quality did not suffer much loss. Throughout the day, the Pure Land of Bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone had been gushing out large amounts of spirit chi crystals. The Wind Speed Rapid Antelope in the Spirit Lock spatial zone was extremely busy. The Wind Speed Rapid Antelope carefully picked up the spirit chi crystals from the Pure Land of Bliss and piled them at a special spot. The hill of spirit crystals was already taller than the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope. After returning to the returning manor, he returned to the Spirit Lock spatial zone. He was prepared to use these spirit chi crystals to enhance his phase. Lin Yuan placed the jasmine lily on the nurturing table in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Then he summoned Zixiao from the swamp world and Little Black from the hidden dragon lake. He asked Little Black to camouflage until it was 1 meter long. He looked at Genius, Chimey, Jasmine Lily, Purple Firmament, Blackie and the Soul Remembrance Whale. Lin Yuan shook his sleeve and released the Source Sand's main body. Lin Yuan said seriously, "Next, I will strengthen all of you and raise your levels to diamond rank level 10. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Genius and Chimey were the first to respond. One jumped onto Lin Yuan's shoulder, while the other landed on Lin Yuan's ear and intimately rubbed its small face against Lin Yuan's ear. Immediately after, the Soul Remembrance Whale and Purple Firmament responded. Little Black and the Source Sand were the last to respond to Lin Yuan. As for the Jasmine Lily, Lin Yuan had to personally carry it over if he wanted to hold a meeting for his phase. As a platinum/fantasy breed plant fae, Lin Yuan did not expect it to have high intelligence. However, when he saw the Soul Remembrance Whale happily circling around him, Lin Yuan felt a little awkward. He reached out to touch the Soul Remembrance Whale's head and said, "You haven't become a fantasy breed yet. You haven't become a fantasy breed yet, so you can only listen." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Soul Remembrance Whale did not have a trace of disappointment. It seemed that as long as it could stay by Lin Yuan's side, the Soul Remembrance Whale was already very happy. Of course, Lin Yuan did not just have these fays. Red Thorn, Silver Splendor, Zither, Gold Wing, Blue Sky, the Floating Island Whale, Grey, and the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee were considered Lin Yuan's fays. Lin Yuan had already raised the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's grade to Diamond X/Legend. However, the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee had yet to obtain a willpower rune from the natural world. As for Red Thorn and Silver Splendor, if they wanted to increase their strength, one needed flesh energy while the other needed soul energy. These were not things that spirit chi crystals could provide. The Zither was Lin Yuan's wealth password. Every time the Zither's grade increased, its quality would also increase. They all symbolized a golden lotus brocade's renewal. Therefore, unless it was necessary, Lin Yuan would not easily raise the grade of the Zither. Gold Wing was a Desolation bloodline fae and needed dragon liver and phoenix blood. Blue Sky and the Floating Island Whale both needed pure water element energy. As for Grey, it needed to absorb all kinds of auras to raise its grade and quality. Therefore, these little fellows' grade increase was not within the scope of the Spirit Chi Crystal's ability. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not call them over. Lin Yuan first raised the grade of Little Black, the Jasmine Lily and the Purple Firmament, which were spirit-locked fays. With the consumption of a massive amount of spirit chi crystals, Little Black, the Jasmine Lily and the Purple Firmament's grades were all raised to Diamond X. However, the Purple Firmament and Little Black were Fantasy I, while the Jasmine Lily was Fantasy 3. If Little Black wanted to raise its grade, the best way was to absorb the essence blood of a pureblood flood dragon that had transformed into a main dragon species Fae. Such things were extremely rare, but the Coiling Dragon Valley should have a reserve. Lin Yuan had heard Long Tao mention that the race's main dragon species Fae would specially separate a drop of essence blood every 10 years. It was the Coiling Dragon Valley's resource reserve. The Coiling Dragon Valley had always been lacking in the number of Emperor-class experts and could not compare to the Beast Creation Garden. This was because it was indeed more difficult for dragon species Faes to raise their grade than other Faes. Lin Yuan could use the law crystals to exchange for the essence blood of a pureblood flood dragon that had transformed into a main dragon species Fae, even without Long Tao. Long Tao was his good brother, so Lin Yuan did not mind helping the Coiling Dragon Valley to raise its top combat power. The Jasmine Lily had previously used the Sea Burial Crystal condensed by the Sea Burial Lotus Flower's main body to raise its grade. Now the Sea Burial Lotus Flower had transformed into a Fairy Fae Silver Splendor. The energy core had also turned from the Sea Burial Crystal into Silver Splendor. However, the Sea Burial Lotus Flower's main body, which Lin Yuan had planted beside the spirit pool, could still absorb spirit chi and condense the Sea Burial Crystal. Even if the Sea Burial Crystal was removed, it would not cause the slightest harm to Silver Splendor. Chapter 15:13. The Sea Burial Crystal condensed at the Sea Burial Lotus Flower's roots was much larger than what Lin Yuan had fed to the Jasmine Lily. Lin Yuan pulled off this Sea Burial Crystal and planted the Sea Burial Lotus Flower's main body next to the spirit pool. He let it continue to absorb spirit chi and condense the Sea Burial Crystal. Lin Yuan placed this Sea Burial Crystal on the Jasmine Lily's leaf and let it absorb it. With the consumption of the Sea Burial Crystal, the Jasmine Lily's quality had increased from Fantasy 3 to Fantasy V. Now Lin Yuan finally had a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fae. Improving the Jasmine Lily's quality was originally a delightful thing. However, at the thought of the Purple Cloud's quality improvement, Lin Yuan could not help but have a headache. The Purple Cloud's body had the bloodlines of the Purple Cloud Beauty Butterfly and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, two supreme butterfly species Faes. If he wanted to improve the Purple Cloud's quality, he could collect some of the Blue Flash Butterfly's butterfly wings scale powder. He could let the Purple Cloud absorb these scale powder. However, this was not the best way to improve the Purple Cloud's quality, and it was not in line with Lin Yuan's goal of enhancing Faes. If he wanted the Purple Cloud to improve its quality in the best way, he needed to find a Fae called the Nirvana Butterfly. He had to collect the Nirvana Butterfly's butterfly wings butterfly powder for the Purple Cloud to absorb. However, Lin Yuan did not know where to find the Nirvana Butterfly. Previously, Lin Yuan had asked the Brahma insect cage if it still had one slaughter worm in reserve, and it had said that if he needed it, it could give him another slaughter worm. However, the Brahma insect cage could not take out a Nirvana Butterfly. The Nirvana Butterfly was actually not a general species Fae, but it had suddenly mutated. Any butterfly species Fae had a chance of transforming into the Nirvana Butterfly through a sudden mutation. However, the probability was too low. There were clear records of the Nirvana Butterfly, unlike the Purple Cloud Beauty Butterfly that only existed in legends. However, there were only two Nirvana Butterflies in history. These two Nirvana Butterflies had eventually turned into ashes in the endless mutation. They had failed to break the Nirvana Butterfly's fate and break through to some unknown butterfly Fae's bloodline. Since he could not find the Nirvana Butterfly, Lin Yuan did not want to force the Purple Cloud to improve its quality. In any case, Purple Heaven's current rank had been raised to Diamond X/Fantasy I. In battle, it could play an effective role in control. The scale powder was enough to make those Faes that relied on elemental combat to become autistic. As they were spirit-locked Faes, Blackie, Jasmine Lily and Purple Firmament didn't obtain any new abilities. Lin Yuan sighed in his heart. He had nurtured these little fellas so meticulously. If these little fellas had platinum or diamond skills, they would definitely be very powerful. As Morbius' grade increased, he wondered if he would be able to see the day when a Spirit Lock Phase high-grade ability would appear. After enhancing the Jasmine Lily, Blackie and Purple Heaven, he was prepared to enhance Genius and Chimey. Genius was currently at Diamond I/Fantasy 2. Chimey was now Platinum 3/Fantasy 3. As usual, a large number of spirit crystals were poured in, and Genius and Chimey were upgraded to Diamond level 10. He was different from Genius. Genius was already Diamond rank level 1. Thus, even though Lin Yuan had invested a huge amount of spirit chi crystals, Genius didn't obtain any new abilities. Chimey was previously at the Platinum level, but it was now at the Diamond level. After reaching the Diamond level, Chimey would obtain a new ability. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius ability True Data to investigate Chimey. Fey name: Clear Sound Wan, Fey species. Plume Finch/Wan bird, Fey grade. Diamond 10 out of 10. Fey type: Sound/light, Fey quality. Fantasy I abilities: Frowny face, Jade shattering sound. Shoot out a huge sound note with the sound of jade shattering at a designated target. The sound of jade shattering has a certain interference effect. At the same time, after the huge sound note is attacked, it will shatter into 10 spiral-shaped sound thorns. Bathe light. Bathe the body in clear sunlight. The sunlight can quickly recover the consumed vitality. Sunlight ray. Emit all kinds of rays from the sun. The rays will cause negative weakening to the target. At the same time, the sunlight ray can increase the plant phase vitality when shining on it. Absolute nirvana light. Retain only a trace of vitality in the body and seal it in the sun wheel of the wings. The rest of the vitality will be burned into sunlight energy. Before the sunlight energy in the vitality disappears, it will be immune to most physical and elemental damage. Clear zither sound. Anchor an object that can release light-type energy. When controlling this object or being accepted by this object, one can project one's voice or sound-type ability onto this object and use this object as a base to spread in all directions. Exclusive skill: Frowny face, Clear sky. After a clear bird's cry, the clouds will disperse and the sun will be summoned. The sky will be clear and the darkness will disperse. Radiant body. Rapidly absorb the sun's power. A large amount of sun energy will gather in the body to form the radiant body. At a glance, Lin Yuan realized that Chimey's diamond ability was called Clear Zither Sound. This ability is quite interesting. Just anchoring an object that can release light-type energy is worth Lin Yuan's deep thought. There were many objects that could release light-type energy, such as a metal spiritual ingredient or an extraordinary flame that could emit light. Most light-type phase could release light-type energy. In the entire world, the one that released the most light-type energy was the eternal sun in the sky. Chimey's Clear Zither Sound could control the extraordinary flame and the metal spiritual ingredient that could emit light. It was the same as having a mobile microphone. Apart from being able to control this object, Chimey could also let this object accept itself. When it was accepted by this object, Chimey could also project its sound-type ability onto this object. It would then use this object as a base to spread out. Could Chimey use the anchored object as the sun? If Chimey could set the anchored object as the sun, when Chimey used Clear Zither Sound, wouldn't the entire world be able to hear Chimey's voice? Wouldn't Chimey become a national idol that could transmit its voice to everyone's ears? A gold medal songstress that used the sun as a microphone. Of course, it wasn't a simple matter to anchor the sun. Even if Chimey could become immortal one day, it still wouldn't be able to rely on its own strength to control the sun. At the same time, through communicating with Chimey, Lin Yuan understood that when Chimey used Clear Zither Sound, the area that its voice could spread to was also limited. However, the more powerful the anchored object, the more light-type energy it contained. Chimey's voice would also spread further.